is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you've never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
All right, everybody, what is up? Welcome to episode number 280 of Sports Cards Live. It is Saturday night, August the 23rd, 2025. My name is Jeremy Lee. A few quick announcements before we jump right in. Fanatics Collect weekly auction-ending watch parties back tomorrow night. Do not miss it. Will be a great time on Tuesday, 90s Auctions Live for 90sauctions.com. We'll be coming through to you here on the channel, 8 p.m. Eastern, showcasing several of the items ending on August 31st, 90sauctions.com. You can now find auction show podcast versions wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, etc. Subscribe for free. It's called Sports Cards Live Auction Nights. That is the name of the podcast. If you are thinking about adding a grail to your collection, check out Fund Your Cards, the hobby's top consolidator. They will help you finance your high-end purchases using your own cards. Visit fundyourcards.com and explore their proprietary client platform. And Mint Inc. is a leading hobby experience in Canada. Visit their Toronto store in Vaughan. You can visit that place live. Shop online, mintinc.ca, with worldwide shipping. They offer live stream shopping options, grading, breaks, and more. And GP Sports Cards is your go-to for hockey card breaks every Wednesday and Friday right here on YouTube. Visit gpsportscards.com for breaks and product drops. And for sharp real-time sports data, check out Rolling Insights. Their data feeds power major platforms and give fantasy players and businesses a real edge. No more messy spreadsheets. Visit rolling-insights.com. And Chronosio now offers flexible pricing, so you only have to pay for what you need. Try the new pricing slider or save with their annual plan. Pay for 10 months and get 12. Start managing your collection smarter at home.chronosio with a K.com. If you'd like to sell your cards on eBay and would like to skip the hassle, message me on Instagram or send me an email, jeremy@slabsharks.com, and I'll help you consign your cards with Slab Sharks. Don't forget, this show is also available on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow for free. And if you're enjoying the content, please leave a rating or review. It really does help. And huge thanks to our loyal viewers and listeners. If you haven't already subscribed, please take a moment and do so. And as always, your comments and your questions are in play, everybody. Welcome to the show. So a couple additional sort of announcements here. First of all, Joe Pareto, unavailable tonight, unfortunately. He's coming back from a work excursion. So we don't have Joe tonight, nor do we have Leighton tonight. He'll be back next Saturday, most likely. So looking forward to have Leighton back here next Saturday. But tonight on the show, we do have Brent Weyer, also known as Deep Value Investor, on Instagram. Brent, we call him Deep. We call him Mr. Pareto Principal, Burrito, whatever you want to call him. Brent will be joining us in about 25 minutes here. So I'm going to be flying solo now, guys, for the first 25 minutes of the show. And a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Also, I'm going to throw it out to, any sort of Q&A, any questions you may have, any comments you guys want to talk about. But I got a few things, so we'll get to those as well. Just going to turn on the Instagram feed now, and there it goes. Welcome people on Instagram. Welcome on Twitter. Welcome on YouTube, everybody. Kevin Hawthorne, good evening to you. Laura is here. Good evening, Laura. Jacob Dahl is here. Michael Stone, what's going on? Walter, Called Shot Cards. Welcome to the show, Walter. Larry Gitlin is here. Good evening to you on the East Coast. Jeff McMahon, what's going on? James Wynn, what's up with you, buddy? Greg, a day from Waxahachie. Our town just turned 175. Well, congratulations to the town. Yankees fan, good evening to you. Willie T. Roberts. Hey, Robert, how you doing, buddy? Double D Dylan is in the card room, hanging out. Love it, Dylan. Good to see you here. Jacob Dahl, and he asks if I have any new pickups. I just tried to snipe a card on eBay like about 20 minutes ago, and I'll tell you what happened, guys. The card was sitting at a bid of, I'm just going into the item, view original listing, and I'm going to go to the bid. So the card was sitting at a bid of about $40. And I thought, I really want this card. I'm going to put in a snipe. So I put in a snipe of $122.22. And I put it in with like a second or two left in the auction. Well, I was outbid immediately. The card sold for $124.72. And I'll show you what it was. It was a fun card. I didn't really anticipate myself trying to bid on this card, but this is what it was. It was a Leaf Pro Set Jaromir Jagr Prismatic Gold 1 of 1. And it was at $40. I thought, well, I'll put in a bit of 122. Maybe I'll win it for $60, $70, $80. But nope. I instead helped the seller triple what they got for it in the last moment. And I caused the buyer to pay to almost triple what he had to spend to get it. So congrats to the seller. I'm sorry to the buyer, and I'm sorry to myself. I really thought that was a cool looking card. I wanted to win it, but no other new pickups for me since really since the National. Texas Rangers PC, good evening. Mookie Chilson, what's up, Mook? Good to see you. So Laura brings up Heritage, and I've actually got the Heritage website open right now so that we could talk about a few of the cards as part of this first half hour of the episode here. And I thought we'd just talk. So I'm going to go through comments. We'll do that before Brent comes on in about 23 minutes. Hobby Champs, good to see you. Triple V, hello to you. Kinger, I got your email and I emailed you back. You should have an email back. Congrats on your upgrade. Mike Petty, everybody. Mr. Mike Petty's in the house. What's going on, buddy? Good to see you. Steve Splenda is here as well. And like the rest of us, he has a cardboard problem. Vinteeks set up the OKC card show today. Canseco was there. That's really cool. Say hello to Jose. Daniel Brown, why don't you do the eBay watch list videos? Anyone? That's a good question, Dan Brown. Literally time, just time and priorities. I mentioned to you guys several weeks ago now that I've been working on something in the background. I'm still working. You know, you work on something, these things, whatever it is you're working on, always takes longer than you anticipate. And I'm working on a project that is, I think I'm probably now, instead of being a few days away, I'm probably 6 weeks away from launching that project. And I'm working on a second project as well, something else. So I've just been busy. It's all card related. It's all hobby related stuff. So I will reveal more as I can, guys. Michael Ham, good evening to you. Jeremy M, Piccolina the cat. Litzy, what's going on, Litzy? Welcome to the show. Steve Elmore, what's happening? Good to see you. Mike Petty, Get Brent Weyer. I said the burrito principle is in effect. I've been spreading the word. He will be on with us shortly. Anony, hello to you. So why don't we do this, guys? Why don't we look at Heritage? Because Heritage ends tonight. The auction ends tonight. Turner misses the eBay watch video. Yeah, I'll guys, trust me. I think about it all the time. I will bring them back eventually. Let me finish these projects I'm working on. I will bring those back. Okay, so let's have a look at Heritage. Heritage ends tonight, and we'll start with this card here that is sitting with 51 minutes left at $7,015,000 with the buyer's premium. There hasn't been a bid in a few days. Someone put a poll up on Instagram today saying, do you think there's going to be any more bids or what's it going to sell for? I don't think we're going to see more bids. I think it's there, but who knows? I hope there's more bids. That would just be a lot of fun. And this is probably, I think it's already going to be the most expensive basketball ever sold. It's going to be one of the most expensive sports cards ever sold. I think it's deserving. On card autos, Kobe and Jordan, 1 of 1, 2 logo men, 1 is gold. That's pretty cool. From 2007 Exquisite. It's got everything going for it, and it's nice. It's a nice looking card. The autographs are great. They're all on the card. No strokes or going right off the edge of the card. So I don't know. I think this card is worthy of being among the most expensive cards ever sold, ever purchased. Curious what you guys might think about that. Stukes, good evening. Mike Petty gave big plans tonight. You have big plans? Good luck to you with that. So it is a big boy card for sure. Thank you, Hodges, for giving the video a like, and hello to you. Welcome to the show. So anyway, this card is huge. And, I like to think in Canadian dollars just for fun. And, it's over 9 million Canadian dollars. So this thing is going crazy. It has gone crazy. And we'll see if there's going to be any more bids. We're into the $50,000 increment. So the next bid will be 5.8. I didn't bid and I don't plan to. So we'll see what happens here as the night goes on. Next card. 1961 Fleer Wilt Chamberlain rookie card. This is a PSA 10, but it's not really a PSA 10. This thing's at $915,000 right now with the buyer's premium, $750 pre-buyer's premium. I mean, a couple things to point out with this one, guys. First of all, the serial number is very old. It's a very old serial number. This card was graded probably in the 90s and was just reslabbed into the new fancy PSA holder. I don't think there's any way that if this card were to be regraded, that it would grade anywhere close to a 10. I think it's like a 7, 7.5, maybe an 8. Maybe an 8. And just my thoughts. I'm probably wrong on that because I don't know what they're going to do, how they're going to grade it next time. But here are the flaws that I see in the card. So let's just open this card up and take a better look. First of all, and someone showed this on Instagram as well. Look at the Warrior guy. Look at all the white dots throughout his legs, his arms, the red background here. You got a yellow print spot right over there. So right away you can see corners and edges are fine. You know, you've got the rough cut, which doesn't bother me at all. Corners look to be okay, but I don't know if those are 90-degree sharp angles that are on the bottom. I don't know that they are. You've got a registration issue. This bluish whitish shadow coming off the bottom of his arm. It's a little bit of, I want to call it color fringe, but it's more like color gap between the black plate, the magenta plate, maybe the yellow plate as well. So that's not perfect. That is suboptimal right there. That registration issue is not perfect. You look at under his ears. He's got this blue glow coming under his ears. We haven't even touched on centering. More little bit of white snow in this. I don't even know what color this is, but that background, it's a purpley sort of color. White snow throughout. It's not solid. And if you look at the top of that unidentified color, you got some blue showing above it as well. You've got yellow showing below the red here. So the registration registration is very tough on this card. First of all, keep that in mind. So, but to me, that doesn't matter. I don't grade on a curve. I don't think grading should be done on a curve. That's a whole other discussion for another day, perhaps, but I don't believe grading should be done on a curve, at least not within a single era. Maybe, vintage, modern, ultra modern, but not within an era, in my opinion. Now let's look at the centering. I mean, is it 65-35 at best? Like it's you don't need me to tell you. I'm sorry, I'm just going to zoom in again here. How off-center it is left to right. And I think it's also got a bit of counterclockwise tilt. I say that because the border up over here on the top right seems to be wider than it is as it comes down the card. So if you look down here, I believe it's getting slightly wider as you come up, and then it would be getting slightly wider as you come down the left. So this card's a complete disaster for a 10, in my opinion. I've seen it referred to as, let's look at the description for a second in the auction here, where they say, where does it say here? Maybe it's somewhere else. Basically, I've seen this described as one of the most important or valuable cards of all time. And my only comment is, you got the word cards wrong. It's holder. It's the most valuable holder of all time, or one of the most valuable holders of all time as far as vintage basketball goes. Nothing about this card is among the most valuable or expensive or pristine or gem mint. This card is not gem mint. I don't know what gem mint meant back in the 90s, but I don't even think this was gem mint back in the 90s. So this is an overgraded card, and somebody is going to overspend on it. This card is really, in my opinion, worth about 35 to 40 grand for what as it displays right now, with that centering, those registration issues, and the surface issues. Maybe this card's worth 40 grand. Someone's going to overpay by about $875,000 because of the grade worship. The greater hobby are worshiping this holder, and someone, it's probably not a very sophisticated investor collector. or it's a set registry chaser, which is fine. I mean, those set registry chasers cause outliers, and this card is going to be an outlier in my opinion. As far as I would not, if I'm pricing out my 10, if my 10 wilt is perfect, this is a low outlier that I would ignore and tell people who say, well, look at the comps. It only sold for $915,000. Why do you want 1.3 for yours? Well, because mine at 1.3 is far superior. So I think this is maybe an 8. Anyway, there's that one. 48 Bowman, George Mikan, PSA 9. This is another really old grade in a new slab, but this card looks really good to me. Is it a 9? I don't know. But I want one of these cards. There's issues with it. The toning specifically around the border, some registration issues, but I do love this card. This would be more than welcome in my collection. And I would love to add a Mikan. So I'm not going to look at it as in depth. It does not offend me. The grade, it does not offend me as much as this one does. 86 Fleer Michael Jordan. This is in an SGC 10. I think this is the pristine. Is this the pristine slab? Yes, PRI for pristine. I thought it would be fun to look at what pristine means to SGC. And I mean, this thing's pretty good. Yeah, this thing might be pristine. Zoom out a little bit. Just look at that centering. Have a look at the bottom right corner as well. I'm seeing some white at the bottom there, but that could just be the edge of the card. That could just be the angle that the card picture was taken. You've got some fray. I don't mind fray. I don't think that we need to penalize for fray. So I do see can you see in the Premier, under the Fleer Premier, you see that little bit of yellow coming down underneath where it shouldn't be? You see that? So that's a slight registration issue. To me, pristine doesn't include a registration issue. That's just me. You see it over here as well. You can see a bit of the red bleeding into the yellow. See the under the black line. It's slight. You have to look at it at high magnification. And this is the first time I've looked at this card, was right now, like up close like this. And is it pristine? I mean, maybe. I don't know. It depends what you think pristine is. Finally, the 1911 C55 George Vezina. This is a PSA 7.5, an extremely high grade. Might be the highest. There might be one higher, something like that. It might say it here somewhere in the description. Another card. I haven't really looked at this card yet. It's a great card, but let's have a peek and see. Centering wise, it's great. This card is tough to find centered. This is beautifully centered. I don't think it's perfect. It's a little bit high, but it's beautifully centered still. Top corners have some slight rounding. Bottom corners, bottom right corner, a slight registration issue. Good image of Georges himself. It's a great card overall. Is it a 7.5? I don't know. I didn't really plan on getting into that with this one here, but not a new grade, that's for sure, but it's not, I don't think it's from the 90s either. And I also think that this is a re-slab. I think this would have been graded in an older slab and then converted to this Lighthouse label. Nonetheless, this is an amazing card for hockey, vintage hockey. It is the preeminent pre-war hockey card, in my opinion. It does have some close rivals, but this is the one right there, guys. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on the Heritage Auction. You can see it right here. It ends tonight, and there's some beautiful, beautiful cards going off, as well as a few overgraded, as we mentioned. But this is and I have it sorted here by highest price. So, we're still in the 40,000s here. Let's have a look at this PSA 8 wilt for just 1 second. Just 1 second. Let's see if the 8's nicer than the 10. Well, it's got a bit of tilt. It's slightly off-centered, up and down, but the registration is better. The registration is better on this one. Let's have a look at the edges. The edges and corners are as good so far as the PSA 10. The surface is better than the PSA 10, and the centering is no worse. So this is okay, in 2 dimensions, it does have a PWCC exceptional eye appeal as well. That's interesting. That's nice to note. This to me is a better card. For $47,580, I believe that's a better card than this one for $915,000. But people worship the grades. That's just the way she goes in our hobby, guys, as you all pretty much well know by now. So Mike Petty saw a guy with a similar card yesterday as that dual logo man with fake patches. Okay. Skeppy, welcome to the show. Good to see you. Wax Pack Wisdom, hello to you. Texas Ranger says, I love off-centered perfect cards. That's a good way of putting it. Good evening, Andrew Deutsch. The sports card professor is here. Good evening. Yeah, Dylan, crazy overgrade on the PSA 10 Wilt Chamberlain. Mike Petty says, look at the trimming on the Wilt. I don't know if he's calling it out for being trimmed or just the fray on the borders. What is up, Curmudgeon? Welcome to the show. Nobody looks at the card. Take my million. Yeah, that's what some people look at the card. Texas, I think you do. What is up, Orlando? Good to see you, buddy. Welcome to the show. Dylan says, a blind man graded that PSA 10 Wilt. Stuke says, the early days of the more you pay, the better the grade. Yeah, we hear lots of accusations about that for sure. Mike Petty says it's a 4 that's been trimmed into a 10. It could be. There's lots of trimmed cards in PSA holders, no doubt. Steve Splenda says that Wilt in the PSA 10 slab is like a woman using filters and makeup. You ain't fooling nobody. I mean, this is worse though, Mike Petty. Women are, please do yourself up. I mean, but I don't feel the same way about cards. Don't do yourself up. Yeah, no doubt. Get your app out. Set registry card, says Jeff's Card Journey. 100%. Couldn't agree more. Mookie's Chilson says Maddie C from IAP Link could find copies with that much better IAP. Yes, he could. Ryan Tedmis from PWR, from Fanatics Collect is here. What's up, Ryan? Good to see you here. And we have also the premiere show, the Fanatics Collect premiere show and premiere auction is on Thursday. Adam Gray will be joining me for that as well. Jacob Dahl says the Wilt is a -10. Yes, Andrew, $750,000 right now for this card that is in a PSA 10 holder, but is clearly not a PSA 10. Mr. Mangini, the hobby president, says, I love off-centered, low eye appeal cards of players who aren't hobby relevant. Well, except that he's hobby relevant, but everything else I agree with for sure. Tony Southern Collector is here. What's going on? Ryan Tedmis says it's a PSA 6 or 7 with today's PSA standard. So just so you know who Ryan Tedmis is, in case you guys don't, Ryan is the gentleman who runs the eye appeal department at Fanatics Collect. He's the eye appeal guy at Fanatics Collect. So coming from him, I mean, that's what he does. I think that's very telling right there. Orlando says it's a 9. I think that's high, Orlando, personally. Texas Ranger says it's a slight overpay. Dylan has an issue with the top left corner. YKDF says, are you sponsored by Hair? YK, you just have to look up above. All my sponsors and partners are listed up above there. You can see them all right there. No need to ask. Basketball card guy says, but isn't this the biggest issue with people obsessed with buying 10s? Enough people bid on this that ignored everything just to get it. Enough people bid on this that ignored everything you just pointed out. Crazy to me too. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm calling it grade worship. That's what it is. They don't care about the card. People don't care about the card. They care about the 10, which is great until the hobby catches on, I guess. My thoughts. Jeremy M says, while PSA has traditionally said they haven't changed their grading standards except for the 55-45 centering change, they have changed their application of those standards. 100%, Jeremy, I agree. It's the adherence to the standards that is something that is a lever that can be turned on and off or adjusted a little bit here and there as they wish. John Mangini says PSA has a license to steal. Well, they certainly have a license to do some things, yes. Dan's Vintage, what's up, Dan? Missed you last week or the week before, was it? And I apologize for last week's show, guys. I hope my internet does not conk out like it was last time. Stuke says, would PSA do the right thing and recertify it and request a regrade? No, they won't. They didn't do it with the Honus Wagner PSA 8 that's trimmed. I don't think they're going to do it with this one. Larry's going to go bid now. Very good. Very good. Jeremy says another way to think about it, if PSA has matured as a grader since their early years, just like many of us as collectors have. That's a great comment. Listen, the grading standards can change. So, but that doesn't mean that you need to respect those old grades. Well, I think Jeremy M makes a really fair point to PSA that just like everything's evolving around us, the standard, the adherence to the standards themselves, I suppose that they can evolve too. But we as collectors and investors, when you're spending $915,000 on a card, you're investing. I mean, at least most 99.9% of us would be. We don't need to respect those old grades, but so many people still do. It's just the way it goes. Anani says Vezina is the Honus Wagner of hockey cards. John Mangini says PSAs back themselves in a corner. Once graded a 10, always graded a 10, even if the standards change. I think that's the case. Doesn't mean you got to pay 10 money for it, though, guys. So just think. Look at the card. Hobby Champ says, was this not a regular Saturday night? Wait, is it not a regular Saturday night? A little bit different. We just we're bringing on our first guest here in about 4 minutes. Mr. Brent Weyer, Deep Value Investor, will be joined, but Joe's not available tonight, and neither is Leighton. Linda's first. What's going on, Linda's first? Welcome to the show. Just running through a few more of these comments. Double D Dylan says centering is slightly better to the eye appeal, an 85 out of. I think he's talking about the PSA 8. Way better, says Luke Browning, on the PSA 8 versus the 10. Texas Rangers is so you can be jaded with grading, but you don't have to be jaded against adding graded cards to your collection. I'm certainly not. I just assess the card and decide if the grade agrees, and if the grade's higher, then I'm not going to pay. If the grade's lower, then you can win. What's up, Philippines Collection? Welcome to the show, Chad Shipper. Good to see you. Mangini asks, how many graders do you think it takes to grade 1.5 million cards a month? And how many of those do you think are truly qualified to grade rare vintage cards they probably never saw before? Oh, John, I mean, I'd have to whip out my calculator to do that math. So I don't know the answer to your first question, but the second one, a very small percentage. I think the experienced graders at PSA, the senior graders, are probably qualified. They have to be by now. But how many does it take to grade 1.5 million cards a month? More than they have, I would have to think. Rocco says, I'm just buying all low-grade vintage and sending them off to Kurt's Card Care. It's all about the eye appeal. Yeah, I mean, that's one problem I have is my fear is buying slabbed cards that have been through Kurt's Card Care. I don't want cards that have been through Kurt's Card Care, but it's inevitable, I think, at some point. Good evening, Mike Good. Those back pages says rich folk problems. Yeah. Seventh Hanuman says PSA executive graded his or her own wilt. I don't know about that, but who knows? Bull Market says, I heard MJ Star 1017 did over 60K this weekend. Hobby Champ says, according to Jeff Wilson, people should pay a premium for that PSA 8. That's mistakenly in the PSA 10 holder. Well, they will. He's wrong. They will. So who knows? Maybe he's right. I don't think they should, but they do. We know they do for sure. What's up, Iconic Al? Welcome to the show, buddy. Always good to see you. Mike Good. And this is why it looks better in a one-touch. Set your own price that's fair to market. Oh, yeah, I still am going to go for graded cards on vintage myself, but I think PSA is still very good at identifying trimmed cards and counterfeit cards. Not perfect, but good, better than me. So I think that's good right there. James Wynn says, don't want to buy cards that have been owned by the mafia either. Yeah, well, good luck with that. Stuke says PSA vintage grading matured with the acquisition of SGC. Mookie says, I love an old school Jeremy run through the chat. Yeah, we're almost done. And Hobby Champ says, I've been doing it for a long time, but I'm way focused on the Pareto principle lately. Big focus on the best of the best for me. Well, Brent Weyer, deep value investor, the man who brought the Pareto principle to hobby content a few years ago here on Sports Cards Live, is going to join us right away. So why don't we do that? Brent, are you good to join me here on the screen? Give me a thumbs up, buddy, because I can't hear you yet. There he is. All right, here you come. Guys, Brent Weyer, deep value investor, is back on the show. Brent, how are you, bud?
Jeremy, it's good to see you, man. I'm great. This has been a good listen already. I'm liking it.
Good. I'm glad. Well, it's I got to see you. I think I saw you briefly at the National, and it's good to have you back. I know you're doing a lot of stuff in the hobby these days. You are connecting with all sorts of people through your role. Now, what is it exactly that you do? Are you a full-time employee at Fanatics Collect? Is it a part-time gig? What's your role with Fanatics Collect?
No, I'm a director at Fanatics Collect and Fanatics Live. I focus a lot on business development, VIP client relations, working with new clients, working with new people coming into the space that are looking to deploy, quite a bit of money into the space and want to get educated on a lot of the cards that we talk about. I help bring in new cards for our premier auctions, our weekly auctions. I help get people set up on Fanatics Live and introduced into breaking. So I'm a bit of a Swiss Army knife.
All right, cool. And
yeah,
so I remember you've been on a few times now, but you came on and made some waves talking about the Pareto principle. And I think it's a couple years ago now, Brent, but if you were to assess your position about the Pareto principle and how you view it applying to the hobby, where are we now? However many months or years it's been since you were last on the show, how has your hypothesis really flown out since you first stated it? And you talked about it here. You went on some other podcasts. You've been very vocal on Instagram. How has the Pareto principle been working its way through the hobby since you first introduced it here in hobby content?
Well, I think we're really seeing it this year. 2025 really feels like more and more collectors are after fewer and fewer cards, like we talked about before. You're seeing the most Apex cards of the most Apex players. Just people are just hyper focused on them. You're seeing them 2X and 3X and 4X, and you're seeing the Currys and LeBrons and Jordans and Kobe's and Messi's. You're seeing them just going crazy right now, really. And I've made some mistakes myself. Like I have a gold James Harden rookie card. That's not gone up hardly at all. But if you look at a Curry gold rookie card or a LeBron rookie card, you're seeing those going up significantly. So you're seeing the Pareto principle working where fewer and fewer cards are going to command more and more of the attention from collectors and more of the wealth from collectors over time. And I think it's just like art. And I think it's like any other space where, there for a while, I think there's just too many cards that had value. There's too many cards that were significant and it just didn't make a lot of sense. And now you're seeing the Tom Brady's of the world. You're seeing these kind of specific elite cards of elite players, like the auction right now at Heritage with, that big exquisite card at $7 million. It's a great example of the Pareto principle right there. So I think that you're really seeing it take effect. You're also seeing it take effect in having Apex cards of, even if the player is not a GOAT, even if the player is not Jordan or if the player is not Kobe, but it is in the Apex card of that player, like the Iverson that sold for $700K. You're starting to see cards like that of top, solid players, but top tier cards of that player going for, a lot of money right now. And you're seeing a lot of their other cards just, stale. They're not moving at all. So I think you're seeing the Pareto really happening a lot right now.
So it's interesting because we're talking, you list off the players, you're listing off GOAT after GOAT that people are chasing. But I also follow some other content, listen to some other podcasts, follow some other collectors, was walking the floor at the National, of course, like you were. I saw all sorts of cards selling, not just the best of the best. So do you think, are we as an engaged segment of the hobby through content, are we kind of fooled at all, or are we only seeing a limited amount of people purchasing cards, adding cards to their collection and showing them on Instagram and other places such that we believe that all the money's going to Brady, Jordan, Kobe, LeBron right now? And I don't think that's the case. I think you're right. I think there's a segment of the hobby that is really focusing on the elite cards, the Apex cards, but I don't think that is trickling through everybody. I think there are still people collecting flagship base card set, complete sets, all the way to super collecting Wade Boggs, just to pick somebody out of the blue, and other players as well, not just the GOAT. So how do you reconcile that in your mind when I'm not saying you're wrong, Brent, because I'm seeing it too. I even did a massive consolidation myself into an Apex card. So I get it, but I don't want to forget about everybody, the other 95% of the hobby. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's an aspect of collecting is supposed to be fun. You know, like there's a certain Chicago Bears collector that bought a big card recently that's been talked about quite a bit. So when it comes down to it, I even buy cards of players, you know, that I just love and enjoy that aren't necessarily super expensive. Like I grew up a major Blazers fan and I love Brandon Roy, and he's like the ultimate what if to me for as a Blazers fan. When I'm at shows now, when I'm working for Fanatics and I walk the floor, and if I see a great Brandon Roy card, they're $300, $500, $400. I love them. I get excited about them. So there's different, you know, aspects of collecting, and there's different avenues for everybody. That's what makes it so much fun. I don't always have to be spending 50 to 100K to enjoy a card. So, you know, I have a $400 Brandon Roy card that's out of 9. And it's a black X-Fractor finest rookie. And I just thought it was the coolest card I'd seen in a long time, and I picked it up. So there's a place for everybody in collecting. It doesn't have to be always just for investing. I don't ever expect to sell those Brandon Roy cards and make money. I bought them because I just thought they were fun and cool and I enjoyed them. And Brandon Roy was always a favorite of mine. So there's space for everybody. When you're at that show, you're right. You know, and there's 150,000 people coming through there, you realize very few people are actually on Instagram posting about their cards versus how many people are actually collecting. So, you know, I think when you're talking about massive escalation in prices, you're seeing it in fewer and fewer cards over time. And so that's what I'm referencing.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So let's now talk about the apex cards of what you jokingly call bums.
Oh yeah.
Really, first of all, and I mean it is a joke, I know, because these guys are all professional athletes. But when we use the term collecting bums, what is a bum in your mind? Is it anybody that is not GOAT, or where does that? How do you rank them?
Yeah, so I quickly started realizing in collecting that having, you know, just any LeBron James card wasn't exciting to me. I just kept wanting the most rare and scarce of any player's cards, and it didn't matter what the player was. And so I started quickly realizing, because I didn't have a massive budget to go out and buy whatever card I wanted, that I wanted to get the best card of specific players. So instead of just having a LeBron that, you know, there's 5,000 or 10,000 of, that might be $5,000, I would look, and at the time I remember buying 2 green PNG Curtis Martins. And I just thought they were the coolest cards I'd seen in a long time. I love Curtis Martin. I love that era of football. And I remember thinking I can get the best Curtis Martin card in the world for $5K, or I can have a base Topps Chrome LeBron James for $5K. And one excited me and the other one didn't excite me. So I just continued to follow my excitement. My excitement continued to follow me down these paths of the best cards of players, no matter who the player is. So I'll give you an example. So this is a recent pickup of mine. So it's an exquisite dual shield of LT. I don't know if you can see it very well here. So yeah, it's the only known vertical exquisite shield of LT. It's a 1 of 1. I just think it's the most phenomenal card, game used. You know, is LT Barry Sanders right now? Is he considered a GOAT? I think he's one of the GOATs, but he's not up there in that Mount Rushmore of Brady and Barry and, you know, some of these other guys. But I feel like I have the best LT card in the world right now. And that excites me, and I love that. And so when we talk about bums and we joke around, it's guys like James Harden and Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook right now. They're guys that have MVPs, but because when greatness is right in front of you, you don't recognize it. And I started noticing that with 90s, where people are paying $5 and $10 for a Glenn Rice, you know, or an Eddie Jones. And I'm like, wait, or I can get one of, you know, Westbrook's best cards in the world for that same price. You know, so it's just, we need nostalgia to kick in. I call these guys bums right now, but they have MVPs. So it's kind of funny, Kevin Durant's of the world. But it seems like our market is hyper-focused when it comes to active players on, you know, only the Shohei Ohtani and not Mookie Betts right now. So it's one of those type of things.
What do you think about buying a card because it's the card versus the player? And I ask because for me, it's the first thing for me is player. I start with player, and then I try and find a card, or a card presents itself that I just like. Something about it makes me, you know, sets that tingle off in my belly, and I have to go find a way to get that card if I can. You can't always do that, but for me, it's player first. The player is the most important aspect of any card for me. Even if I've for the couple of sets that I've grandfathered into my collecting today, where I do follow a checklist. I need that for a certain player. So I'm not buying a card because it's a PMG green or because it's got a couple of NFL shields on it or because it's an essential credentials or anything, a 24 karat gold. I'm buying a card because of the player first. Do you subscribe to that approach, Brent? And if not, like, when does the card override the player, if at all?
I mean, it's always a balance to me. So I have to enjoy the player, like the player, or find the player interesting. Like I recently got a 24 karat gold Randy Moss. I personally think Randy Moss, is going to be one of those guys that's highly collectible over time, but the set really intrigued me. So it was a combination of the two. So the fact that it was a 24 karat gold out of 24 and it happens to be Randy Moss's rookie year, that set really intrigues me, and that it's Randy Moss. I really like it. So I noticed when I'm walking around the floor at the National, my eyes are scanning for NFL shields, NBA logomen, green PMGs, 24 karat gold. It's looking for certain sets and players. So I'm always evaluating both. I'm not a Randy Moss collector. I don't have every Randy Moss. My goal is not to have 100 Randy Moss cards, but I would love to have one of the top cards in the world that exists of Randy Moss. So I always just think it's such an interesting thing, because if it's just player first by a significant amount, I would own a lot more LeBron James, for example, but I can't afford to own his very best cards in the world, which are the equivalent of Randy Moss would be $1 million. So it's a balance for me. And I think that's what started making collecting a lot of fun for me, is I could start looking at other players and get the best sets of those players. So when I collect a bum, I have a few bum rules that I always talk about. So the set is really important. So, the set needs to be a top tier set that's highly desirable. That's, in modern day collecting, I consider set collecting not the way that it used to be considered. You don't have to have every single player from a set, but it's clear that when people are collecting modern sets, they're collecting all the Hall of Famers from 24 karat gold, or they're collecting all the receivers from 24 karat gold, or they're collecting the guys that they enjoyed from it. So the bum rules, the set is super important. It's got to be the top tier set. And then I love a set that's anchored by a GOAT. So, I bought a 09 James Harden gold to 50 rookie card because it's 2009 Topps Chrome gold, last year of Topps Chrome, and it's anchored by Steph Curry. So those things all in combination makes me really desire that player in that set. Or I bought a 2004 Topps Chrome Dwight Howard Superfractor, rookie year Superfractor, first year Superfractor. All those things have to align for me to want to buy the bum. So the bum comes with rules. I don't just buy any Dwight Howard, but if it's first year Superfractor Dwight Howard rookie card, yes, I'll buy it. So it makes it collecting a lot of fun.
For sure. And it is nice to get into some really cool cards, even if the player isn't the guy you would want the most. So you mentioned LeBron James. If player was first, you'd have more LeBron James. But player is first for me, but it doesn't mean all cards. Of course, it does not mean all cards. There are tons of cards I don't like at all. I would never add to my collection, but it does give me the opportunity to then do my research, pick out the cards that are going to qualify. And see, what I end up doing though, Brent, is once I have a few cards of a player or all the cards I want of a player, and now anything else I just can't afford because they're way too expensive, or I don't like the looks. Like even some cards that are known, that are sort of grail type cards, I just don't like the looks of, so I'm not going to chase them anyway. Where do aesthetics come in for you? Do you need to love the looks of a card in order to add it to your collection, or are you happy adding cards that you don't like, but because they are maybe very rare, scarce, or other people really like them?
Yeah. So, I definitely need to like the card. So that LT, I've been noticing I'm really drawn to shield autographs. So if there's a shield out there and it's not an autograph, then I don't buy it no matter what. Or if there's a shield out there has a sticker auto on it, I don't buy it no matter what, because it's just, I don't like it. So I've passed up on Brandon Roy, logo men, because they have sticker autos. And people are like, I thought you loved Brandon Roy. I thought you wanted all of his cards or his best cards. And I just don't like the look of a sticker auto, so I won't buy it. So that's an example of a situation where if I don't like the aesthetics of a card, I'm not going to buy it. Now, with these bums, I joke about them being bums, but don't get me wrong. I'm also prospecting nostalgia. So that's something that I really love to talk about is I'm prospecting nostalgia. They're a bum now, but they're not going to be considered bums in 10 or 20 years when they're parading around and they have statues in front of stadiums and their numbers have been retired. And, you know, the mystique of them starts building. You see it right now with Stephon Marbury. You see it right now with Allen Iverson. I remember when those guys were not loved or liked and no one cared about them. And now you're seeing the mystique of them grow as they're out of the league, as they're not playing anymore. So when I buy a really nice Chris Paul, I'm buying it because I'm also prospecting nostalgia, because his nickname is Point God. And 10 years from now, my son who's 14, when I ask him who are the top point guards of all time, he always lists Chris Paul. I ask him one of the top receivers of all time, he always lists Randy Moss. So, you know, aesthetics, prospecting nostalgia, set, all those things come into play. So I have to really like the card. So when I first saw a 24 karat gold, I couldn't believe how beautiful the card was. You know, and so now it's like, you know, Terrell Davis, I pick one up because I just love that set and I love that card. So it's a combination of a lot of things.
Couple of things you said there that tweaked a few thoughts in my head. So you mentioned basically the checklist and how one of the differences between modern collecting and, you know, even collecting, I don't even want to put a timeline on this, but I think more and more people find a set that they like, they want to add cards from it, but they are not finding themselves being a prisoner to that or a slave to that checklist. I've talked about this before. I no longer do that. I might like a set, but I only need 3 or 4 cards from that set to be happy. And that has really changed my approach. 1948 Leaf Baseball, a beautiful set. Do I need every card in it? Absolutely not. Are there half a dozen that I want? Absolutely. And to me, that's kind of like a cheat code almost that I've discovered for myself, and I'm using it more and more. And the more time that goes by, the more I really enjoy that aspect of collecting. And it doesn't just have to go for vintage, of course. It can go for 24 karat gold, or it can go for PMGs, whatever you want, if you've got the budget. The other thing you mentioned were sticker autos. We are on the same page there, Brent. I have a no sticker auto policy in my personal collection. Now, I say policy. I reserve the right to make exceptions to these things. And speaking of making exceptions and being not so rigid with your approach, I feel like you have come a long way, actually, since you first jumped into the scene here in the sports card world. I feel like you maybe have found a way to expand your horizons and find other things, even bum collecting you might not have been into 2 years ago, and now you are. As a collector, someone asked the question in here. Where was the question? Somebody said, hold on. Okay, I'm not finding it right away, but somebody basically asked, here it is. Mike Good said, is Brent truly collecting to collect or collecting as an investment for resale? This is a really interesting question, because as I've said 100 times before, you've got the collector investor spectrum, and I don't know if anyone lives on the extreme end. I think a couple of people probably do. We all fall somewhere in between. So where do you see yourself, Brent, if collecting's at one end and investing is the other, and you're known as deep value investor? Where do you see yourself fall, if you want to answer this question with that kind of framework in mind?
Yeah, I never hide it that whenever I'm spending a lot of money on cards, you know, except Brandon Roy and in situations like that, I'm always considering the investment side of the purchase. So do I think there's an opportunity for this player to grow in sentiment? So I look at, you know, a lot of factors around player sentiment, overall market sentiment, seasonality. I'm taking into account everything. So I believe Chris Paul will be more liked in 5 or 10 years than he is now. I believe that Chris Paul will be more highly regarded in 5 or 10 years than he is now. I also like Chris Paul, and I also like his RPAs from Exquisite. So I always consider the investment aspect of a card. So I think even the sticker auto thing, I knew early on, I was like, wait a second, this player never held the card. The entire point to me is that I love the idea that the player held the card and signed on that card. Like, I don't understand why that's not a boundary to me in collecting. There could be infinite amount of stickers put on cards from here on out. I didn't like that aspect of it. So sometimes I never know if it's truly just aesthetics or I'm identifying a scenario where I don't like the investability of a situation long term. When there's not boundaries around something, when there, you know, it's hard for me to always know, but I always have my investment hat on. I do care about the investment potential of a card. I only buy cards that I'm happy to own and own for as long as I want. Like I will not buy any card if someone's like 80% of the value, I'll give it to you, 90% of the value. If I don't like the card, if I don't want to own the card, and if I don't want it part of my collection, I don't care. I never get deals on cards. I can't remember the last time I got a deal on a card. I don't buy a card because of the price I'm offered. I get messages every day asking me if I'm buying, and I always say no, because I'm so specific and picky about what I buy. I have to really want it and love it. And so if somebody wants to come along and pay me a big number for a card that I have identified as a great opportunity to own, I've identified that set, that player, that year, and they think that's a great opportunity for them and they want to spend some money on it, I'm happy to do that. I work in this business. I love this space. I love cards. So I spend way too much time thinking about cards, looking up cards, studying cards, listening to podcasts. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot, Jeremy.
Hey, so you live you're immersed in it. Sports cards,
yes,
the lifestyle, right?
Yes,
it goes for me too. All right. Lots of great comments and questions. Some for you. We're going to get to a bunch of them. Before we get into the next topic, just to keep people on the edge of their seats, the next topic we're going to talk about with Brent is going to be, we're going to touch on new high net worth hobbyists coming into the space, new high net worth individuals deploying significant capital into sports cards. And Brent mentioned to me that he's been meeting some of these people, I believe, because of your role with Fanatic. So let's just take a step back here and get into some comments from all of you. Ryan Tedmus is excited to watch tonight's show. Always excited to have you, Ryan. Dan Brown said that this PSA 10 Wilt is proving Jeff's point. If anything, in the short term, it might be. Orlando says Brent the Burrito is awesome. Just like we're calling some players Brent, some players bums. The Pareto has become the burrito. I think it's a term of endearment, of course, coming from Orlando at a collector's dream. It would be. YK says, Brent, can you go over your rationale on selling your Manning 24 karat gold? The Brilliance, I believe it was. Can you take a second and just explain why you sold that card?
Sure. I bought that card last year. Loved the card. Loved the opportunity of Manning in that set. A card hadn't sold for many years. A card came up for auction, another Manning in a lower grade, and it created an opportunity. Sometimes there's opportunities. Players get traded, cards come up for, auction, something significant changes for that player or that set, a big comp comes onto the market. And so, somebody approached me and said, they're willing to pay me a really strong number for the card, and they wanted to add it to their collection, and they collect a lot of these 24 karat gold cards, and they didn't have the Manning. And so it was one of those opportunities where it made a lot of sense for me and my family to sell the card.
That's going to happen sometimes, no doubt.
It really does, yeah.
It does. It's happened to me as well. Mangini says it was fun hanging out with Brent and Emmett Smith at the National. I just got there a bit too late. I must have got there after you'd left, Brent, that night. James Wynn calls out some more GOATs, Kobe, Messi, Hulk Hogan, and Brady. Bob Boozle says, if sports card content is dead, does this mean we are in heaven now? Yeah, that whole thread of content, I just kind of let that come and go. Steve Splenda says, tell Brent his exquisite Tomlinson is a horrible investment, and I'll happily take it off his hands. Iconic Al says, how would a Pareto guy explain the tremendous price growth of a 1954 Wilson Franks Campanella? And I mean, without Brent doing it, I would just say that cards catch fire. The Pareto is not, it's not the end all be all principle. I think we kind of covered that at the beginning, I would think, but do you have any comments on this, Brent? How a random, somewhat obscure 1950s baseball card can all of a sudden catch fire, and how that reconciles with the Pareto principle?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with what's going on in his pricing right now, but if it's specific to, a PSA 10 and there's a super low pop and there's a lot of people collecting that set, things like that can definitely happen. So, that's what makes this hobby fun. There's so many different nuances. Somebody, when I asked them for some questions for tonight, they're asked, can you speak to a PSA 10 versus a PSA 9 and whether it's worth the difference? And there's just so many generalities like that are these questions where it's like, well, what card are we talking about? What scenario are we talking about? What's the there's just so many different outliers that there is no specific, you have to follow this. Like the PSA 10 thing has been interesting. You mentioned it earlier. I don't own a PSA 10. I don't have one PSA 10 in my collection. But that's because I can rarely afford the top card in the world of a player where there's no rare or scarce card available of that player, like a 52 Mantle. Of course, I'd love to own a PSA 10 of that, but I can't afford it. So the cards that I collect, there's usually a more rare or scarce parallel of that card in a lower grade that I can get. So a lot of these things, it's like you said, there's you can maneuver around it. There's nuances to it.
Yeah, I think the word that you were looking for there might have been context. When someone asks you the difference between 9 and a 10, that question is impossible. It's like, what do you like better, red or blue? Well, are we talking cars? What are we talking about?
Yes.
Ryan says that the super rare card rarely hits the market, anchored by Ted Williams in the set. So that's where set does matter. Thanks for that question from Iconic Al. Rage is in the building, everybody. Octavio, good evening to you. Foul Ball is joining us from the West Coast Card Show in Anaheim. What's up, Foul Ball? Hope you had a great time at the show. Wander Franco Super Collector says, Brent, as a Wander Franco Super Collector, what card would you recommend? Does anything come to mind for you, Brent? How well do you know his cards?
I mean, his Bowman Chrome first Superfractor would be the best card in the world of him, but I don't know how many people want that card right now.
Yeah. Bob Boozle. What's up, Bob Boozle? Welcome to the show. Says Mike Petty is Apex commenting. Not going to disagree with that. Iconic Al says, does Brent rank his players? Any formal structure for decision making? It's a good question.
Oh, that's interesting. So I sort of do sometimes in different ways. Like when I think about active basketball players, when I joke about bum collecting, I do have a Mount Rushmore of guys that I think about. Chris Paul, Westbrook, Harden, Durant. There's a specific 4 or 5. Dwayne Wade can be thrown in there too. He's been out of the league for a few years, so you're starting to see his stuff. People have more nostalgia around him, but I do. Or like LT. I love 2000s fantasy football guys. So it's more of just in my head. I don't really rank them. When I see a great opportunity to get a great card of one of those players, I love to do it. So I don't have a specific ranking.
Sounds good. Farhad William Sani says, green PMG of a bum, I will pass, LOL, as would I. Mike Petty says, I like my 24 karat gold in coins, not cards. You got to see these cards, though, Mike. They are pretty fancy, I will tell you that. Texas Rangers wants to know where Midlife Greg is. He had a dinner tonight. Hopefully he'll be joining us in the chat soon. Steve Splenda says, Brent, show us the LT again. Yeah, show us that LT card one more time here.
The LT again.
Yeah, I'm going to spotlight you here. Yeah, that thing's phenomenal.
And it's game used too, as you always prefer, Jeremy.
Always. And it's exquisite. I love it. Great card. Iconic Al says, personal rule, when spending actual money, no bums allowed. Orlando says he agrees with Jeremy. Selected cards in iconic sets. That's my way. That's my jam, Orlando. Mookie says, so Brent is serving nostalgia rice with his burrito now, expanding that menu. That's a good way to put it, Mook. How you doing, Mookie? Skeppy says, when is a bum too much of a bum? At some point, do you say that's a really cool card, but the player is so unknown that you passed on it? I think we've established that to be the case, Brent. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like usually they need to have an MVP. Usually they need to be multiple time All Pros. I say bum jokingly. There are some collectors out there like Darius that will collect actual bums of guys that played in the league for a year. I don't go that far. I use it more of a joke, but even Dwight Howard, I believe, was a 5-7 time first team All Pro type guy. So I do have my limit. So I don't actually collect true bums, but they're just, when the market gets so hyper focused on few players, it's funny how a guy with an MVP can jokingly be called a bum because nobody cares about him all of a sudden. So.
Well, so the next segment of questions is going to be about the word bum. So Anani says they were in the hall of good players, maybe, instead of calling them bums. Hobby Champ says, yeah, I legitimately don't like calling these players bums, LOL. Anani says, millionaire former athletes ain't bums. I think we've established it. It's just kind of a joke term. I don't think that anyone thinks these guys are bums, and you would certainly not call them that to their face. But no. It's just a label, and yeah, it's not flattering. But I don't hold it against you, Brent. And I don't know that did you invent that term as far as you know, or did you adopt it from seeing it elsewhere?
I don't know if it was Darius or me, or I can't remember who invented the idea of it, but it was totally a joke about how people just act like these guys are nobody. and you look and they have 10 all pros and no one ever mentions them. And so it's like, the joke was like, what are these bums? Like Chris Paul. People act like Chris Paul is nothing now. I think he has 10 or 12 first team all NBAs. And it's like, what does he, chop liver now? It's like people, when somebody's right in front of you, you don't appreciate it. And so that's where the joke came from.
It's actually really neat, guys. If you think about it, what Brent's doing and talking about by using that term is he's actually saying that the Pareto principle isn't the only way to approach the hobby. If that's all that mattered, everybody would only be collecting Brady, Jordan, and Gretzky, and Shohei, and Babe Ruth. Like, that'd be it. A few other players, of course. No one would be collecting these other players. He himself is going out and collecting them. And like you said, the joke is that they're not bums. That's kind of the brilliance in the label. Jeff Wills says you can be a collector and not sell, but buy a card that you feel will go up a lot. It's more fun watching a card appreciate than not. Wealth effect like stocks is better than sleeping in your car. Yeah, I think I understand it, Jeff, and can't disagree. I think that comment makes some sense. Southern collector Tony says we are all investors when we collect, but I don't buy any cards based on how much money I will make one day. I buy a card because I want that card. So I like Tony's approach here. The only thing is that you're going to get pushback, Tony. Some people are not investors when they collect. And I think that's the case. I don't think that everybody is investing, but this is a relative sort of concept, relative wealth relativity. If it comes down to what is significant to you. At what point do you make an expenditure that you actually have to think about how it's going to impact your family? Or the other side of that is, how often do you not sell a card and think about how not selling it will affect your family or impact it? It's been said that if you're not selling your cards at today's value, you're basically buying them for today's value. That's a concept that I have a lot of struggle with myself. Because I'm not willing to buy my cards again, but I don't want to sell them either. So what does that say? I don't know exactly. Steve Splenda says, I'm sleeping in my car right now because he's spending all his money on cards, I believe. Iconic Al says, agree, Brent. I buy to own for the long term. So I do too. I buy to own for the long term, but I also buy to own in the short term at times. I do buy cards just to sell because, there I am in Chicago walking the floor at the National. I found a couple hockey cards I think were underpriced. I'm going to bring them to the Canadian shows and sell them there. I'm acting as a bit of a dealer, a bit of a flipper in those instances. Ziggy No says the guy with a high bid on that Wilt Chamberlain is watching the show right now and hoping he is outbid. I gotta say, if people watching this show know how I feel about these things right now, I think the high bidder would purposely be avoiding watching the show because they would not want to hear what I have to say versus being here and hoping they're outbid. But I hear what you're saying about that, Ziggy. Kinger says, isn't it great when you really love a card and it's also an investment card? Yes, that's great, especially if you've spent a good chunk of your money on it. It's nice that you can love a card as a collector and also consider it to be an investment or at least a store of value that you can tap into if and when you need to. And Splenda says, I would pick that LT card over any woman in existence. That is commitment right there, Splenda. That is some serious commitment right there. Seventh Hunaman wants to know, are you in Hawaii, Brent?
No, I'm in the Seattle area, Kirkland, Washington.
Kirkland, Washington. Mm-hmm. And Ryan Tedmus wants to know, Brent, do you still have the McCutcheon Superfractor?
I do. That's a great example of an apex card of a player that, isn't Ken Griffey Jr., isn't Shohei, but a guy that's been on the Pirates for a very long time. He's going to be an all-time Pirate. Hall of really good. I won't call him a bum, but that would be a joke where you call a guy a bum when the guy has an MVP. And it doesn't take a whole lot of Pirates or McCutcheon collectors to want that card. And a few years ago, I got an opportunity to get that card for what I thought was just unbelievably cheap. And I still have that card in my collection because I don't know why I would ever sell it. And when I bought the card, I had no plan for it. So I would say that's a lot of times I buy cards. I don't really have a plan for them. I don't have a 6-month plan or a 3-month plan or a 2-year plan. I've had that card for a couple of years now, and I just continue to enjoy that card. It's the best card of McCutchen that exists.
And if you have a connection to the player, all the better. I mean, it makes sense. Southern Collector Tony says, I'm investing my money in a card, therefore I'm an investor. So I hear what, and we were just talking a bit earlier about when Tony said that if you're collecting, you're investing. I said, no, I don't think you are, but he says, I'm investing my money in a card, therefore I'm an investor. So the way that I can try to explain this as I look at it is you think about, and Tony's a businessman, so Tony knows about financial statements, P&Ls and balance sheets and that sort of thing. So the way I look at it, Tony, is some of my cards hit my balance sheet as assets because, you know, every transaction has a debit and a credit. You're spending money, you are crediting your cash. Your cash balance comes down. You're crediting cash, or crediting, maybe you're borrowing on your credit card, you're crediting that liability. The debit has to go somewhere. It can either go to an asset on the balance sheet, or it can go to an expense on the income statement or the P&L, the profit and loss statement. So I kind of look at it this way. Every time I buy a card, it goes into one of those two places. If it goes into an expense, it's not an investment. That money is gone. I don't think about it anymore. If it's a card that I feel is an investment, it goes on my balance sheet as an asset. So some cards to me are investments, but just because I'm buying cards doesn't, and just actually to this comment specifically that Tony is saying, where he says, I'm investing my money in a card. Okay, but you didn't say you're spending your money in the card. You didn't say you're deploying your money into a card. You said investing. So in your mind, in Tony's mind, every card is an investment by this statement. But I don't think that's the case for everybody. I think it's not the case for many people, actually. Bob Boozle, I like this from Bob Boozle. Hello, Southern Collector. Very clever, Mr. Boozle. Andrew Deutsch, what's happening? Says very nice. Iconic Al says plenty of very worthy hobby bums in pre-war and vintage. Yeah, of course. TJB says collector at heart, investor mindset. One way or another, we wear multiple hats in the hobby. Not only that, but like I was saying, every card we buy can be looked at differently to you as the person spending, deploying, investing your money. Bob Boozle says, put all those investments aside, boys. Join me in the breaking cabana. Sure thing, Bob Boozle. Stuke says, I'm buying cards to add to my collection and cards to resell. No long-term investments. All card funds come from selling cards, and a certain percentage go in a household fund. Very good. Mike Petty says, my balance sheet is about to take a hit in 22 minutes. Is it a hit or is it and again, you're just moving from cash to long-term or whatever to sports card investment. So
mine also, I keep getting outbid though. So it's a problem. Yeah.
You're working on something right now as we're on the show. You're bidding.
Yeah, I was, but I think I'm going to have to pass now.
It got too high. Is that happening more and more right now, Brent, with more and more big money people coming into the hobby?
It really is. I mean, I find myself losing on, 19 out of 20 auctions I'm bidding on. And I'm trying to maintain a level head around it and not get too emotional. Like, I'll just say I was bidding on the Griffey, the Central Credentials. Now that's up right now because, one just sold not that long ago. I saw it as another opportunity that, maybe if a second one comes out too quickly, it could slip. And I love the card. I live in Seattle. I love Griffey. I love the set. But, here we are. It's already at 176. So next bid would be 190, 200. And now we're starting to get to a point where, it's getting too close to probably fair value. And, I thought it was an opportunity to take advantage. We talk a lot about, I love to use psychology. It is a simple thing, but a lot of times people start getting, numb to a card if it sells too often, too quickly in a short period of time. And so they might, kind of get turned off by it, where I'll see that as an opportunity. A lot of times if a great card comes available, just for whatever reason, there's so many reasons, I'll look at it as an opportunity. So, I bought many cards that way, but this one looks like somebody's really after it.
Yeah, $176,900 right now. Let's just go back and take a look at some of the other cards at auction right now. So the PSA 8 Fleer Wilt Chamberlain is sitting at 41 pre-buyer's premium, 50 with it, while the PSA 10 is still at 915. The Dua Logo Man got another bid. It got another bid. It went up 50,000 from 5,750,000. It is now at 5.8. It is in extended bidding, and now it is only open to people who put in previous bids. So we'll see if we have any bidding war on our hands. There's 20 minutes left. I think it will reset if there is another bid. 750 on that. The Bowman Mikan is at 451 with buyer's premium. The Pristine Jordan is at 320 or 390. And the George Vezina has cleared 100,000, 112,850 with buyer's premium now, 92.5 pre-buyer's premium. So those are the cards that we were sort of watching here, Brent. But why don't we add this one? I'm just going to do this and open it up separately. We're going to add this one to the queue as cards that we are watching. Meanwhile, Piazza is sitting at 13.5, so not quite.
Yeah, I was gonna say that Piazza, it's at 16K plus with BP. And what's interesting is the future sells for around 800 to 1,000, and that's something I've also been paying attention to lately in the markets, is this expansion of ratios between parallels. So, you know, the future, I believe, is, I can't remember, 60 to 80, out of 60 or 80. So it's a significant difference between the future and the now. And that puts that ratio from the future to the now around 16x. And so I'm seeing that a lot now between Black Finite and Prism Golds. I'm seeing it between, you know, PMG greens and PMG reds. I'm seeing it between, you know, Bowman Chrome first autos and a red versus an orange versus a gold. I'm seeing this expansion in the ratios that I think should be there. I've always believed that a lot of these ratios are too low. A Black Finite out of 1 versus a Prism Gold out of 10 shouldn't be 3 or 4x. I've never understood that. I think it should be exponential. So now you're starting to see like that Cutler that just sold for 9.5 times the gold. So you're starting to see even that. Why should it not be worth 10x the gold? So
more bids have come in on the Dua Logo Man. Now it's gone up $100,000 since we last mentioned it. It's now at 5.9 plus buyer's premium, which brings it to 7.2. $2,000 shy of $7.2 million on that. So yeah, that's these cards are climbing in here in extended bidding. We'll revisit those shortly. Going to go to a couple more comments here. Casey H says, if a card purchase gone wrong puts you out on the street or takes your kids' dinner off the table, maybe you're also an investor or a gambler at that point too, or just irresponsible perhaps.
Can I comment on that real quick? Because I think that's a great thing to discuss. I've had this discussion with people lately with the markets being so hot. Now is a great opportunity. If you have overinvested yourself, if you've gotten in a little in over your head, if you have a lot of cards you don't love, now is a great opportunity to take some of that off the table. The market is strong, sentiment is high. You know, if you're one of those people, if you spent too much credit cards, if you've done some things where, you know, you just got too into it, now is a great opportunity to kind of level set a little bit, take a little off the table. You're selling into strength. You're selling into a very strong market. Nobody's ever going to, you know, at least for me, I would never ask why you'd sell right now. So now would be a great opportunity to kind of level set and not take dinner off your kid's table.
Agree. Kinger says sometimes being outbid is okay on your Griffey there. And Iconic Al says, I believe the only definition of investment is subjective. If something is purchased with the intent or purpose of monetary gain, it is an investment, whether it's good or bad. Mm-hmm. And I completely agree. People love to say cards are not investments. Well, to the people saying that, they are not investments. They have the right and the power to make that decision. But people who invest in sports cards, those are investments. That just because they don't spin off dividends doesn't mean that they are not an investment. It's just a different kind of investment, but they can still be considered investment. So
absolutely right. It's all perspective. And so you don't get to tell me what my perspective is. So
exactly. So why don't you tell us a little bit about some of these people? You know, obviously privacy is important. We're not going to ask for names, but help us understand the profile of some of these high net worth individuals that you have been meeting, you have met, that have entered into this sports card space. And are they coming in to invest? Are they coming in just to collect? I kind of laugh at myself. I don't think that would be it. I think they're coming in to invest. They see opportunity. But just over to you. You mentioned to me that you've been meeting a lot of, or I don't know if it's a lot or several, a few high net worth individuals coming to the hobby. What are they looking for, Brent? Why are they coming to the hobby? Why now? What sort of cards are they looking to deploy their funds into? Are they investing? Are they collecting? I'm just going to put it over to you to speak about this.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I feel like a few years ago, the joke was, does anybody have a day job? Anybody in the sports card world actually have a career other than buying and selling cards? And now I'm seeing a big shift in new collectors coming in that actually have careers, that actually make money, significant amount of money, and it's outside of cards. And one thing that I'm noticing too is I feel like breaking gets a lot of bad publicity sometimes within collectors. I'm noticing a lot of them coming in through breaking even. So they come in through breaks. They enjoy the camaraderie of the breaks. They like the community. They have fun. They're entertained by breaks. And then it's almost like a Trojan horse where it's like that thing that starts getting them hooked into collecting. And a lot of the high net worth people that I'm meeting and that I'm working with first came in through breaking. And, you know, they got their feet wet a little bit. And then they all of a sudden start recognizing, I want to learn more about cards. I want to learn more about sets. What else is out there? And so I'm really able to meet with them and help them identify where they should be deploying money, which kind of cards they should be buying, which kind of cards are, you know, cards they should be passing on, the difference in specific sets and players, and, you know, things like sticker autos, things like sets that aren't anchored by goats, things like just a lot of the things that we think is just common knowledge and that we know really well now. When you're coming into the space, it makes me think of if I wanted to start buying high-end art or high-end watches. I mean, I would want to find somebody who is an expert in that space and help and get their help. And I feel like for a long time in the space, a lot of people came in and they thought they could do it all themselves and they didn't want to listen to anybody's input or their feedback. And they may have got burned or not got burned. And now I'm noticing people coming in where they have significant careers outside of sports cards, and their attitude around speaking with somebody who knows what they're talking about or knows and identifies specific cards and sets and, you know, has a vast amount of knowledge, they value that. It's completely different than a couple years ago. And so it makes it a lot of fun for me when I'm waking up in the morning and I'm waking up to text messages from these guys. You know, what do you think of this card? What do you think of this player? What do you think of this set? Do you think this is a buy? You know, and it could be a range of things. It could be anything from a gold LeBron rookie card to a 52 mantle to football, baseball, basketball. And that's one of the things that I didn't really realize at the time, but I've always loved being very diversified in my knowledge around cards. And a lot of the knowledge I have around vintage is from watching your show, actually. And so that's been a lot of fun. But also I just love baseball, basketball, and football. So I love all of them. So I'm not super hyper focused on one specific lane. So I'm able to help these people deploy money, have fun. They do love to collect. These people really do love to collect. They're sports fans. So just because they may be a CEO of a company, just because they may have made a lot of money, doesn't mean they don't love sports. They don't love collecting. They don't want to make some money on a card when they do sell it. It's pretty fun. So I'd say that's a big shift. I'm constantly meeting with people that have massive careers outside of sports cards that want to collect, that want to learn about cards. And they're listening to the podcast. They're on the auctions. They're sending me cards. Have you seen this card at auction yet? So it's a lot of fun.
Well, it's good to hear. I mean, it's always nice to know that more and more people like what we like and are excited by it. But the other side is you know, there's a faction of the hobby that is very protective over the hobby aspect of it, and we're already seeing. You know, you mentioned that a lot of these high net worth people are coming over through the breaker channel, and I've actually heard that directly myself from people coming in that have money saying, I was going in breaks and now I'm collecting cards. They've actually smartened up and aren't spending their money on breaks. They're now becoming sharpshooters, or they're buying the cards that they want. They're specific because they realize that that's just a more efficient way of deploying your capital into this hobby to collect what it is you actually like versus getting a bunch of things you're just going to have to try and sell now because you don't want them anyway. So I find that to be really interesting. And somewhat encouraging. I think we after seeing what happened during the pandemic, when everybody came back in because they were bored more than anything, and we saw the big run up, and then we saw everything kind of scale back down. Now, of course, that cycle is happening again, but it's different. It's always going to be different, but there will be, I think, some similar features of each run up that we need to be careful of, and just hope that, during the pandemic, so many people came in and so many of them left. They didn't all leave. Some guys came back in and stuck around, and that's the best. Like, so glad that happened. Now, if people are coming in with big money, spending big money, and the hobby takes a turn, or the indices take a turn on the cards they're buying, then what happens? Do we kind of slope back down a little bit until we level out again, just to position the hobby to go back up again? I'm talking generally, of course. So only time will tell with all that, Brent. We're going to go with some more comments now. And I'm just going to find the top. Okay, Tony chimes back in. He says, all cards are an investment if you plan to sell them one day when you are done. Okay, I can rebut that, Tony. He goes on to say, an expense would be base cards that are thrown away after breaking a box and getting no hits. Those were collateral damage. Okay, so I definitely agree that those are collateral damage, but the first part, and I'm just going to talk to Tony. He's a friend of mine, which, by the way, he does go on to say down here, I can still be a true collector while knowing my cards were also an investment. 100% agree. That's me, Tony. That's me. That's me too. I'm a true collector. I love my cards. Collecting is in my blood, but I also consider some of my cards to be an investment, not all of them. But back to this comment, and the only thing what comes to my mind is, so I know that when we had kids, my wife and I had kids, we bought car seats for our car. Well, we bought those car seats, and then we were done with those car seats, so my wife lists them on Facebook Marketplace and sells them. Those were not, we planned to sell them when we bought them, but they were not investments. That's an expense item. That's just like the collateral damage. The gap between the money we got back and the money we spent, that's the collateral damage. Those were not investments. Furniture. Tony's in the furniture business. People are buying furniture to use it. It has utility. It has usefulness. They might go sell that furniture at the end of the day, but I don't think they viewed that as an investment. So, but here's the thing. The way I'm reading Tony's comments are that he's projecting them out there to the whole hobby. I think Tony is speaking for himself, and maybe I am misinterpreting the sentiment here, Tony, that you're putting out there, which is that maybe this is your outlook, and I think that's totally cool. You look at it however you want. No, there's no pushing back there. But to project it out there to everybody else, I just think it's false. But that's just me. Mike Petty says ABC, alternative burrito collecting, having some fun. Kinger says, I wish Bo Jackson had a PMG or an EX. I'll tell you one thing, Kinger. He still could. It just would be from 2025 or 2026. Doesn't mean that he's never going to have one, but I'm sure you're talking about the originals from back in the day. So I hear you on that for sure. Hobby Champ says, are you saying breaking is the gateway into the hobby? I don't think Brent or I said that, but people are finding breaking and making their way into the hobby. Is it the gateway? It's a gateway. I think that makes sense. Brent, where else are you, when you're talking to these high net worth individuals, besides breaking, does anyone, I mean, if you can think of if you can't think of it, it's fine too, but can you think of a specific instance where somebody said to you, oh, I caught a podcast, or I caught a YouTube show, or I had a colleague bought a card, showed me a 52 tops mentally to spend $100,000 on. I thought it was cool. Any stories like that? Yeah,
there's a lot of that. There definitely is a lot of that. I thought the breaking aspect was interesting, that, there's so many people, poo-pooing on breaking and hobby content, when a lot of these people that I do meet that turn into collectors start in breaking. So I just found that really interesting to see that as an opportunity, because I want to keep these people in the hobby as long as possible. My goal is I don't really care how they get into the hobby. It doesn't matter to me. Once I start meeting with them and once I start talking to them, my only goal is to continuously educate them on the hobby and help steer them to what excites them the most, and help them from, losing significant amounts of money when they don't need to by buying the wrong things and the wrong cards and things they're not going to like. And but I do meet people that, you know, hey, I listened to your podcast a year ago or 2 years ago. I heard you on this podcast here, and it changed my perspective on collecting. And instead of collecting this way, I started collecting that way. And every once in a while I'll share them because I love that. Like, to me, you know, I'm not a teacher or anything like that, but I love to share things. And when people are humble enough to say, hey, I heard you and I appreciate that, and that worked for me, and I've been now collecting that way. There's somebody that shifted an entire portfolio into Messi after listening to me on a podcast. And they just said, hey, I was collecting all this stuff, and I just decided after listening to you, it made so much sense. I love Messi, and I'm just going to dive into Messi. And of course, now he's really happy about it. So I think some humility, I didn't always have humility in this hobby, and I'm trying to have more humility in it. I think having some humility to say, hey, like what you're saying might make sense, or hey, I use that, and now my collecting has changed because of what you said. I think that's great. So I do hear that all the time.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've seen a lot of content lately, like, or posts on X or Instagram talking about influencers, and you know, and a lot of people very critical of influencers. Yet those people are influencers too. They just hide behind not being one. It's very strange. That doesn't describe you, Brent, but you know, having an Instagram account can make you an influencer. You get yourself a couple thousand followers, you can have influence. There's nothing wrong with that. I get influenced all the time by my fellow collectors, by my friends. I see someone's passion for a card, I get curious. Okay, hold on, maybe I didn't look at it close enough. You know, discovering cards all the time that I want, that I eventually covet. So it's a fun circuit within the hobby. Vintage Oddball says, I've never bought a card as an investment. I do not collect that way. I believe you. I certainly believe you. Mookie says, breaking is essentially the front door of the hobby for most new collectors, isn't it? Orlando says, breaking can also be the back door to collecting, which it can be. It can ruin people. Good evening, Junk Wax Museum. Welcome to the show. Kendall says, not sure if you covered this already. Curious how you rationalize setting the market on ultra rare, high-end, buying from a public marketplace. Do you pursue private deals first or at all? It's an interesting question, Kendall. I'll put it to Brent in a second. I go where the cards are. For me, if I'm aware of the card, if it's private, if it's online, if it's public, if it's eBay, Fanatics Collect, private on Instagram, at a card show, at an LCS, if that's where the card is, I go for it. Brent, how do you process and respond to this question?
Gosh, I used to always try to go private for cards. But now that I'm getting into certain areas and certain types of cards that are just so hard to find, I don't really care how I get them. And like the LT, for example, I was fine with that being a public comp. It was a record for anyone ever buying an LT. And I couldn't figure out why the card wasn't worth that. Have you ever had that where you're just, there's a card, there's an opportunity, you can't stop thinking about it, and you're like, I must be missing something here. And you just sit and every rationale I could come up with, and any ratio, and like I just couldn't figure out why this card wasn't worth that. And so I was like, fine, I don't care if it's a public comp. I don't know why it's not worth more than that. It makes no sense to me. So I'm with you now. I don't really care. I used to care more, but fees are so low now across all auction houses. It usually doesn't make much difference. I just wanted to make sure I got the card, and however he wanted to sell it to me. In fact, I was actually just fearful that if I tried to, do too much of trying to get it private, that I'd just lose the card. So I just wanted to make it done.
Yeah. I do know that feeling you're talking about. And about 10 years ago or so, I found myself buying a lot of cards that I thought I was ahead of the curve on, and I thought we're going to maybe catch wind one day. I was becoming very interested in them. And the reason why is because I was influenced by the basketball card market and learning about all the cards in the basketball card market, specifically the 90s, and taking some of those interests and popular type of cards and seeing for myself, or saying to myself, I really like that card. What's the hockey equivalent? And then going to the hockey market and buying up those cards. And for example, the PMG green Wayne Gretzky, from 2012 Fleer Retro, not an original PMG from 97 or 98, but the first hockey PMG. And I started buying up all these cards, including the Gretzky, a Crosby. And then I just watched through the pandemic these cards go up in value like 500 to 5,000 to even a larger percentage. And so sometimes when you see a card that you think should be worth more, you might be onto something. And if that's important to you to get in before everyone else catches on, and to maybe prospect not on a player, but prospect on a card, that can be very profitable down the road if that's something that you want to do. Or you do what I did and you just hold them. You hold them through the up and the down, and because you love them and you don't want to sell them. And then you might think to yourself, oh, I could have sold them and bought it back, but that's probably not going to happen for me. So where I would actually sell and buy it back. But I hear what you're saying, Brent. I think you need to pay attention to when that happens. And sometimes you have to wait longer than you want to wait for some cards to catch up, for the market to catch up to your insights. And that doesn't just go for Brent. That can go for anybody, really.
Yeah, that's good wisdom.
Thank you. Dan says, breaking is a gateway where most people have the gate land in their foot. The gate land on their foot. Okay, I see what he's saying right there. Those back pages, I've never heard of this guy, but this is a good listen. I'm glad you're enjoying. Eric, please meet Brent. Brent, please meet Eric. Nice to have you here, Eric. Southern Collector says, I'm just glad to add some conversation. I love you, Jeremy. I think you and I believe the same thing. It's all in the small print. Oh, Tony, I love you too, buddy. 90s B-Ball Jake has joined the show. Good evening, and always a pleasure to see you, Jake. Tony goes on to say, a good friend of mine started doing whatnot and moved into classic collecting. It was his gateway. Not everybody. See, a lot of, I think, like smart and or responsible and or fiscally aware people who are brought into the whatnots, the Fanatics live breaking, the eBay lives, the loops, and don't like how their money works, how it works out for them from a return on investment perspective. Some of them will seek out other ways to deploy funds into the hobby, like buying singles. So I'm not surprised that, Tony, you have a buddy who came in that way. John says, hey, Brent, are these individuals coming to you at Fanatics Collect in an individual capacity or both? Just curious how it's playing out.
It can be both.
Both ways. So some people are approaching you because they discover you on Instagram. Some people are referred to you through the chain of command at Fanatics Collect, maybe saying, hey, Brent, we have a new client. Can you please go advise him, sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, that's right. And that's a lot of fun.
Oh, no doubt. That's
like, you imagine meeting a new person in the hobby, they're excited,
spending their money.
They're looking for cards to buy. And it's like, oh, I can help this person, avoid a lot of the pitfalls I did when I first started collecting, and I can help them, get right straight to it. It's just so much fun.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. That could be a ton of fun. Dan's Vintage says the hobby can be very humbling when you see friends buy cards you will never be able to access. Oh, it certainly can be, Dan. Certainly can be. Bob Boozle says, when Dan invented the term own appeal, I questioned if I have what it takes to add to the sports card conversation. Mr. Boozle, you have more than you know to add to the sports card conversation. I'm just glad you're a part of it. And Iconic Al says, Brent, how many cards in your core collection, and do you insure it?
Do you insure it? Okay. My core collection is, I have one of those small 3-row Zion boxes. So usually 40, 50 cards type thing that are slab type cards of any significant value. I do insure them, and I also have safety deposit boxes. So those are very handy.
There you have it, Al. Hope that was helpful. The Hockey Man says there are countless ways to collect and many ways to invest, but always keep something that's just for you. Value isn't only measured in money. No, it isn't. And I like that sentiment, Hockey Man. I do. Mookie says, hey, Brent, what kind of hobby media do you advise clients to consume? That's a great question. Do they ask? I'm going to just add to Mookie's question, Brent, but do your clients ever ask you what they should be listening to, podcasts, YouTube, who's a good follow on Instagram? Any questions like that? Or is it all, what cards should I be adding to my portfolio?
That's a good question, because I actually don't get asked that a lot. I don't get asked a lot of, what podcast should I be listening to? I don't know if they have a lot of time for that. I think that, I'm obsessed with it, and that's all I do all day long is consume content and dive into cards. But that's an interesting question, because no, I don't get asked a lot of, what should I be listening to? Who should I be following? I think that there's a certain level of trust between me and them. I do, send them, different content at times, or I'll send them different cards or different auction houses and different opportunities. But yeah, they don't ask me that a lot. No.
All right. And so you said you'll send them to different auction houses at times. So your role at Fanatics Collect, Fanatics Live, are you allowed to send people to other auction houses if that's where the card is? I think that's wonderful if you are.
Yeah, I mean, I try to be completely unbiased when it comes to, if somebody's sending me a 52 mantle and they really like it, and it's, at a different auction house, and they're asking me for my opinion on the card, and it's a great card, I'm going to tell them it's a great card, and I'm going to advise them on what they should probably be spending for that card. I'm not going to tell them they shouldn't be buying that card because it's not on Fanatics. So I try to put the client first. I try to educate them first, because it's a small world and this hobby is a small space, and you're not going to last very long if you're just strictly trying to advise people on only what, is most meaningful to you. It needs to matter about them. So if they love a certain player, card, and I see it, I'm happy to share it with them. I'm not going to be solely focused on what's only best for, my outlook. I want to, advise them about the cards.
I think that's great. Let's take a second and, okay. So what time? Okay. Just so where we are right now on the show, guys, Chris McGill is going to be joining us in about 10 minutes, I believe, is when I asked him to come on. Brent, I think I had you kind of tapping out when he came on, but you're welcome to stay on for about 20 minutes once Chris is on, if you're able to. But for now, let's just have a look at these cards on Heritage and see what's going on with them for a moment. There's a few that we're watching. So first of all, here is the PSA 10 that is really an 8 masquerading as a 10, with no further bids. Still sitting at $750,000 or $915 with the buyer's premium. So I don't think we've seen a bid at all today. Or never mind. There, it's now at 800. It's now at 800, 976. So this thing is closing in on $1 million in extended bidding, guys. Closing in on $1 million, an overpay right now of about $930,000 by my estimation. $930,000 overpay. Tony, I don't know if this is an investment, if this is an expense, what it is. It's mostly expense to me on this card. I just think it's funny. This is just a funny sign of where the hobby still is, and just how people just don't think for themselves. That's it. Here's the PSA 8 at $50,000 with buyer's premium, $41,000 pre-buyer's premium. It is a nicer card. This card is a better card than this card, and it's $925,000 cheaper. You could do a lot of money with 9 1/4, couldn't you, Brent?
Yes. It's so interesting, because the carryover I noticed with new collectors too is, in vintage, when grade is the only thing that makes a card rare or scarce, it's a little bit different with modern. And so I noticed a lot of people trying to apply those same principles to modern. And then I show them that there's a more rare, scarce parallel available of that card. And they're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Why am I buying a PSA 10 of this card when there's a rare, scarce parallel that I could buy of any grade? And so I love advising that with collectors. So with this kind of card, yeah, the grade's the only thing. But now that's even subjective, because you're showing an 8 that's nicer than a 10. And now it's just like, what? I don't know. You've opened my eyes to that.
Grade scarcity is a hoax. Condition scarcity is not, because condition and grade do not equate all the time. Condition scarcity is a real thing. Grade scarcity is fake. It's a fake concept that has just happened over time, and so many people are fooled by it and drinking the Kool-Aid. And like I said before, if you were to ask me for my advice, I'm going to set you straight. But if you're not, I'm kind of glad that someone's going to put $1 million into this card. That's $1 million that could have put into better cards and spent their money smarter. That leaves it for those of us who are more critical thinkers about the cards that we're buying. Here's the logo man, the dual logo man, still at 5.9. Okay, so it looks like it's done. It looks like this is done. Let's refresh. Oh no. It's now at $6 million. 7.3 after the buyer's premium. It's an extended. I needed to refresh. We are at 6 million. It is still going, guys. The George Mikan PSA 9 is at 370 pre-BP. The Jordan hasn't moved. Well, what am I saying? I got to refresh these. Hold on. 370 is now 410. Sorry. $500,000 on the Mikan. The Jordan 320 is now 350. The George Vezina 92.5 is now 105 or 128 with buyer's premium. Brent's Griffey that he wanted to purchase was at 165, still at 165. And then a couple other Griffies. I own a copy of this one, Brent. I love, this is my favorite Griffey. The Star Rubies from 1999. This is out of 50, was at 11.5, is now still at 11.5. And the PMG Griffey was at 13.5, still at 13.5. So there's a few cards to just to look at there.
I showed that Griffey at 201 with buyer's premium right now. So that's moving up.
Yeah, 201, 201.3, 165.3. Yeah.
Big card.
201. Casey here says they're too busy drinking expensive liquors and smoking Cuban cigars to watch Jeremy L. to watch sports cards live here. Andrew Deutsch says, good conversation. Thanks, Brent. Yeah, I would echo that sentiment. Hobby Champ says, Hoge is the hobby Plato. That's a good way of putting it. And John NP3 says, Brent, besides Sports Cards Live, could you give us a couple podcasts or YouTube channels you enjoy listening to that are sports card related, of course?
Oh, sure. Let's see here. I should just pull it up because this is what I'm constantly doing all the time is looking for new content. So Sports Cards Nonsense is one of the first ones that I came into. Stacking Slabs, The Crossover, Cards to the Moon, Sports Card Madness. There's a lot of good ones. Mojo Media, Sports Cards Lesson, The Hobby with Cage, The Sports Card CEO. There's 10 or 15 of them at least that I'm constantly trying to listen to because I always just want to understand everybody's perspective, how everybody's collecting, insights in the hobby. I especially love when content is more market focused and overall hobby focused versus, a specific collector's story about why they collect the 49ers or something like that because of what I do. But there's plenty of content out there.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing those ones that you did. Yeah. Dan's Vintage says, Chris's latest advice is to consider moving cards during the current boom. As you just mentioned as well, Brent, don't be afraid to take some money off the table if it's going to help out you and your family or put money into other cards. Thorson, what's going on? Thorson Collectibles, welcome to the show. Dan, no, I did not win or bid on any of the 1910 Sweet Cap postcards in the Love of the Game auction. I have a no oversized card rule in my collection, just a sort of arbitrary thing. Well, it's only arbitrary because I like my cards to all be uniform and it helps me put up a boundary. I know it's silly, but it is what it is. So no, I did not. I think they're amazing museum pieces. I've never owned one. And Hobby Champs also, do you ever use CIA auctions? That is collector investor auctions. Jeremy, the Texas Snowman, owns that, and he works with Chris Sewell, baseball card collector investor dealer in that order, I think is a part of that company as well. Brent, do you ever peruse the CIA auctions website?
I haven't, no.
Yeah, it's good. It's it's not like Heritage or Fanatics Premier. It's a lot of everyman type of cards, which is a lot more accessible than some of these high-end cards we've been looking at here tonight. For sure. Dan says Brent needs an advisor to give him better hobby content pointers. That's funny. I think you're just kidding. Casey says, no offense, Jeremy. I don't know what you could have offended me with, Casey. So none taken because I don't even know what you're talking about. And Junk Wax is digging on Cajun cardboard. Lots of good Jordan market info. Yes. Brian is the man when it comes to Michael Jordan content, and I think he's doing more basketball than ever before as well. And then Andrew Deutsch says, Brent, do you have any card recommendations under $1,000 that seem like good value? One thing I just want to caution before you answer is that any opinions or investment advice given here, not by me, is not mine. I'll take account for anything I say, but Brent, go ahead and give some of that advice if you'd like, but this is not on behalf of Sports Cards Live or myself, of course.
I would just think about things like I shared earlier around prospecting nostalgia and players from certain eras that aren't appreciated yet, where when greatness is right in front of you, nobody cares about it. And then 5 or 10 or 20 years from now, all of a sudden everybody cares. So for me, I've been really enjoying collecting players from the 2000s. I think they're not the 90s era, so they're not super nostalgic yet, but I think there's a lot of opportunities there.
Thank you for that. Okay, Chris, you want to join us? All right, guys, we're going to bring on Chris. Brent, you want to stick around for a bit still? You're welcome to.
Would love to, yeah.
Okay. Guys, please welcome Chris. Please welcome Chris. Oh, hold on. Hold on. There we go. Please welcome Chris to the show, everybody.
Oh, sorry, Brent. I knocked you down a peg, man.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Let's go. Are you watching this Heritage auction, by the way?
Well, we're watching a few. What are you watching?
No, I mean, I've been watching the whole show. I mean, have you looked at it in the last 60 seconds?
Oh, well, okay. Here we go. Let's just refresh. The Wilt is still at 800. The other Wilt is at 41, 5, 6, 7, 50. So this was, oh, wow.
Jeremy, I was with you. You opened the show by saying, I don't think it's going to get another bid. It hasn't gotten a bid in like 72 hours. I said the same thing to Josh when I was messaging with him a few hours ago. I was like, I think this thing is done. It's over $8 million now.
Yeah, it was at $7,015,000 when we started the show. It's gone up over $1.2 million in the last hour and a half. It's now at $8,235,000. I want to see this thing hit 10 million. I think that would be awesome. That would be awesome. Let's go. Keep on going, you two. What I love is that it's a PSA 6. Just goes to show the condition is not everything. Or let me rephrase. The grade is not everything, because grade and condition rarely walk together. Well, okay, they not rarely, but they often don't. Yeah, I want to see 10 million out of this card, guys. The Mikan still at 410. Jordan 350 still there. Let's have a look at the Vezina last card, 105 still. So yeah, we're seeing some crazy stuff tonight. What do you think about the dual logo, man? Chris, we're now, as we just saw, we are sitting at $8,235,000. Any thoughts?
What timing by the folks who decided to send that in to auction? Because I think that probably was consigned before we were going to enter into this bull market that we've like rocketed into after the National. So I think about that. I think about how Heritage's platinum auction, that was also the auction a few years ago that set the mantle record with the SGC 9.5. I just feel like they've completely nailed the timing and the composition, the curation that these auctions feature. And this auction right here, I mean, I don't know. I'm just doing some math in my head. This is going to be one of the biggest auctions of the year, just for sports cards when you total up the volume. So they've really got an incredible formula. I see it like the spillover effect of the high profile nature of this card. You know, I think running over into a lot of cards down the line in this auction. I just think that they've captured a moment with this. I think that card is incredibly high. I don't know. I'm way out of place commenting on things that cost $8 million, so I should probably just stop there. But I'm shocked by how high that is.
Yeah, it's a ton of money, no doubt. It's a ton of money. I want to just take a second here, guys. And first of all, here's a comment that came up. I'd like us all to comment on this. This comes from Rocco. He says, if it wasn't for graded card scarcity, cards would have little to no value. And I read this a few minutes ago, and I've been sort of processing in the back of my mind as Chris was talking through this card. We were looking at the other auctions. And the first thought I had was, well, back in 1990 or 91, when Wayne Gretzky and Bruce McNall bought the Honus Wagner for $451,000, that was like the beginning of grading. And that had a lot to do, like grading certainly elevated the value of cards. But if it wasn't for grading, for graded card scarcity, would cards have little to no value? Like, what is little to no? Like, is $10,000 little to no value? Because I could see many cards having that. So I don't agree with Rocco's comment here, but I think he's not completely wrong in that I think that graded card scarcity has elevated the value of I mean, case in point is this monstrosity, this absolute disaster right here of a card that is selling for, let's just refresh and see if we're still at $976,000 for a card that is at best an 8 today. So he is right on point with this card, but I don't know if he's on point with the whole hobby in general. Chris, what are your thoughts?
I think there might be a little bit of a chicken and an egg question here, which is, did grading scarcity create and stratify copies of cards into different tiers based on the desirability of condition and eye appeal? Or did collectors themselves develop the method of sorting cards by identifying which ones look the best, which ones present in the best condition, which ones score the highest along a technical assessment of condition? And then grading companies came along much later and sort of codified it and enshrined it into a process and a procedure that's reproducible, and doing it under the auspices of third-party objectivity, and then ultimately, processing it into a business model. And I think then that's how I see it. I think that grading scarcity in its ideal form, Hobby Champs mentioned Pareto earlier. The platonic ideal of grading is that it perfectly assesses through a third-party assessment condition. But that the grading nature of things came after collectors long before that discovered that what they really prioritize are eye appeal, condition, and so forth. So the grading company is just a way of providing that service in a neutral third-party way, especially when, people were overselling the condition of their cards on the internet, that a third-party assessment of that was good. Jeremy, something you've always harped on, which I completely agree with, is that grading companies provide authentication. But I think there's a chicken and an egg question here. I think the grading company is assessing or attempting to assess condition, but it's the condition itself, not the grading company's assessment of it, that separates cards into tiers.
Yeah, the grading companies are just putting their slab around it, putting a number on it, and that has really put a spell on so many people, such that they can't even see the card's condition itself. Cards always sold for more in better condition, but I think grading definitely did. I think your chicken and egg question is a valid one, of course, Chris, and I don't know that we can solve for that. I think that it's kind of they keep on bumping each other up. Brent, do you have any thoughts on that line of discussion?
Well, I think grading, along with the internet, has really helped provide liquidity for transacting cards. So I think people are much more comfortable buying and selling cards online when they're graded than they would be raw cards. And so I think that's one aspect of it. I also think that collectors love to constantly seek rarity and scarcity any way they can. You see it with vintage cards that are autographed now with IP autos. They don't care how or why it creates more rarity and scarcity. They'll just do it. And so grading, in a vintage type of card scenario where that's all we have is, grading to create rarity and scarcity. I think it plays an important role there. With more modern cards where there's autographs, there's patches, there's serial numbering, I don't really see a whole lot of need for it as much. Like when I saw a lot of these Caitlin Clark cards coming out, and I'm getting clients sending them to us to auction, and they're already sealed, they're already in a one touch, they're literally coming out mint. Like, how mint does a mint card need to be? The thought of then taking that mint card that's in a one touch sealed out of the pack to send to somebody to tell me if it's a 9.5 or a 10 or it feels a little odd to me. Like it feels a little unnecessary when a card is already serial numbered, when it's already autographed, it already has a patch in it. So I can see both ways. So I see lots of different perspectives on that.
Thanks, Brent. Just seeing if this auction is going to end on the wilt right now. Is this now over? It looks like this card is now sold for just under $1 million, 800,000 plus buyer's premium for 976. I just had to bring that up, Brent, as it was ending. And then let's have a look here. Oh, okay, guys, more bids coming on the dual logo, man. It's now at $9.2 million, $7,550,000, $9.2 million. Victor, the rookie card specialist, says that's Saudi money. It might be Saudi money. Don't know. I don't know, but that's definitely a possibility, I think. Chris Hayes says, as a person who collected Jordan in 1995 to 1998 and came back 15 and after, are you 15 years old, Chris? I love seeing people propping my Jordans via that Cajun salesman dude. I mean, at first I thought this was a productive comment, and then I see that he kind of slides his way into just taking a shot at that Cajun salesman dude, who's really just somebody who's passionate about cards and makes content about it. It just seems like nowadays there are some people that just don't like passionate people, and they will take a swipe at them whenever they can. Victor, Saudi money, good one, Victor. Mookie says, as of now, this card is the second highest price sale ever. Am I right, Chris? Is it the second highest sale?
Second highest sale on the public record. Yes, by comfortably now. The highest sale is the 52 Topps Mantle SGC 9.5 from the 1985 Rosen Find, which was $12.6 million in August of 2022. That was also a Heritage Platinum auction. And then the highest sale, the next one down, would be 1909 Sweet Capital T206 Hannes Wagner SGC2, which was a private sale that was publicly reported. I believe that was golden. Yep, that was golden. Also from August of 2022. So this Kobe Jordan dual logo man from 2007 Exquisite autograph is comfortably the second. Will because assuming it's paid and everything goes through with this sale, it will become the second highest sale on the public record.
Very interesting. Yeah, we are still sitting. I'm just refreshing my page. 9.211 million for the card. Anthony says, "Is the passion genuine?" I think he's talking about Brian from Cajun Cardboard. I mean, if you've ever met, I've met Brian, and I've talked to him. He is. If you don't see passion in that guy, you might be blind, literally, or you just don't know what passion is. But yeah, the guy, I believe the guy is full.
Can I just say something about Brian really, really quick?
Yeah.
Brian's a friend of mine. I'm a big fan of his content. He is a very upfront guy. He'll tell you exactly what he's thinking, what he's doing, what his motivations are. And I just want to say that. Shout out Brian.
Shout out Brian. Well, Hobby Champ says, with Cajun, have you ever watched his content? Of course it is. To which Chris Hayes comes back and says, old Cajun is a salesman. Come on, baby. I mean, Chris Hayes, I'm just going to bite my lip.
He does sell cards. I just watched a Cajun video today where he was showing 10 cards that he's putting up for sale on the Fanatics Marketplace. So yeah, he is a salesman. I don't even know if he would take exception to that.
I mean, if you have a job, you're selling, you're a salesman. You are selling your time to your boss, to your company. That is what you. Everybody is a bit of a salesman in one way or another. But okay, I'm just going to stop. Okay, those back pages says grading separates cards from the sea of raw cards out there. Almost every month we are hearing about vintage finds. Yeah, that's exactly what it does. Also, I mean, listen, hey Brent, I bet if you were to have a new client come to you, Fanatics Collect client, and they say, I got this collection I want to sell, and it's a bunch of raw Mickey Mantles and Wilt Chamberlains and whoever else, vintage. One of the first things you're going to say to them is going to be, we got to get this stuff graded, because it legitimizes the cards in terms of authenticity, in terms of lack of alteration, and it puts it strives to apply standards to the card itself. We know it's not perfect or consistent, but it strives to do that. So it's become necessary. Just like before companies had to file financial statements publicly. When companies could go public without disclosure. I mean, these things are maturing over time. There's no way to turn it back. Brent, you agree?
Oh, I absolutely agree. I think that we all take it for granted now how smooth and easy it is to transact online and all these auction houses, because most of the cards are graded. And especially for vintage cards and older cards where grading is, what determines a significant portion of the value. I also think what Chris was saying was interesting around, this auction of this, big heritage and the timing. The momentum and the sentiment at the National is so massive. I noticed this last year and then the year before that I advised a lot of clients to wait until after the National to sell cards, because people are so exuberant and excited in this market, and they go to the National, and I think people save up a lot of money to go there expecting to get a lot of great cards for a reasonable price. And when they don't, they leave there excited about the hobby with a lot of cash on hand. And that gives them the opportunity to get cards at auction following. I believe, Chris, last year, August was a massive month also. And I predicted, not specifically like I'm some genius, but I predict August will this year again be a massive month, and then we'll probably slow down after that. So selling in August after the National, when everybody's excited and sentiment is high, this person at this auction with the heritage card is pretty smart.
Indeed. Okay, I'm going to do a few more comments here. Seth Kaywood says, graded cards is a good tool to track approximate number of copies of cards. From there, use your eyes on condition. Yes. Populations are a source of information. They're wildly inaccurate and overstated, but they are better than nothing. I think that to me goes without saying. And but I like this last sentence from there. Use your eyes on the condition. That's the best advice we can give somebody. I think some of the best. I mean, there's lots of great advice out there, but some of the best advice is use your eyes to determine, because right now we're still seeing people spending $1 million on overgraded Wilt Chamberlains. But is that going to happen forever? I don't think that's going to be the rule forever in our hobby. I think that the hobby will evolve, grow, and mature to verifying the grade, and people have put a lot of heat on the Mike Bakers and the Fanatics Collector PWCC Eye Appeal sticker saying, why are we grading the grader? Well, guys, the first grader isn't good enough. That's why we're grading the grader. And now we have Eye Appeal Inc., Maddie C's new company, launching soon. I think we're going to see a slow but sure evolution towards not putting as much stock into the grade on the slab itself. Just my thought. Anyone want to say anything to that, Chris or Brent? Please.
Well, I was going to say, you've really opened my eyes to the complexity of identifying cards that have high eye appeal that are graded of the lower grade. If I were to dive into the vintage market, I would probably go there, because to me, that is fun. The more complexity, the better. That's what I love about modern cards. I love identifying the sets and the serial numbering and the different tiers of the, refractors and parallels, and the more complex, the better. So with vintage, I would look for high eye appeal and a low grade, because to me, that is fun and exciting and makes it unique. I actually just got an NBA sticker on both of my red Shaq PMGs, because the fluctuations in grading from year to year to me is pretty wild. And they are some of the nicest for the grade I've ever seen. And it just made no sense to me. And I walked over and handed them to Mike Baker and had them take a look at it. And both of them got gold stickers, because they're gorgeous cards. And if they're graded now, I actually believe they'd be graded higher, because I actually think a year ago with PMGs and PSA, they're way too hard. And now they're kind of coming back. And so there's like this fluctuation on centering and not like, to me, that's wild. So I think the more you can make something complex, it's exciting. And I agree. Like I can see how it'd be exciting to find a really beautiful 3 or a really beautiful 4. Because I found a beautiful red PMG Shaq that's a 5, and I'm like looking at it thinking, this thing is beautiful. And I see other 5s of red PMGs, and they got big chunks right in the center, right in your eye when you're looking at it. And I'm like, how is this the same? So it's fun.
And just to add on to that a little bit, and I think you touched on it earlier, Brent, like the littlest flaw can drastically change the grade of a card. And is that legitimate anymore? Like, does that really matter? And I don't know the answer to that. I'm not saying it doesn't. I think differences matter, but there does become a point where it's kind of like the law of diminishing returns, but in reverse, where, does a 9.5 to a 10 to a black label 10, just to use Beckett's grading scale, really give you that much more value or utility for the extra, and I mean, we're paying so much more to jump those final grades on the grading scale. I just think something is off there. I think I don't think I know I'm not alone, but then you think about a comment that we got like this one right over here. I'm gonna bring this in right away. Damn it, where'd this comment go? I thought I would. Oh, right here. Vintage Oddball Card says some people don't give a damn about the condition of a card. They just want the number on the label. Some people have FU money. No Vintage Oddball. I know I'm not. It's not FU money. It's FS money. Effing stupid. It's effing stupid money. That's a different kind of money than FU money. FU money. I think people are smart with FU money, and maybe it's not effing stupid. Maybe it's not FS money. Maybe it's just F.
F me money.
It's it's F ignorant. They just haven't learned the nuances of the hobby yet. They're not tuned in to shows like this where people are advanced collectors are talking about these things, or passionate collectors. So I think it's effing ignorant money or effing stupid. But I don't think it's FU because to Vintage Oddball, who I got to meet at the National, I have more respect for FU money than I do for this money, Rick. So that's just my thoughts there.
I've yet to meet anybody that, has a significant amount of money that doesn't want the best of something and hates losing money. So it's likely in that scenario, they just are not super educated around the centering of that card and how the grading standards have changed. And as soon as somebody has the courage to point that out to them, they'll probably be pretty frustrated. I've had that happen quite often with some clients that spend a lot of money on a card and the auto's faded, or they didn't realize it was a sticker, or, it's a known patch swap, and they hate to learn that, but they love to learn it. And I usually am always straight up with them about it. And it's not about having FU money.
No, I agree. Okay. 90s B-ball. Jake says Cajun is a friend of mine as well. He is a great guy. Yeah. Lots of people standing up for Cajun in the chat. I mean, if you know, it helps to know somebody, that's for sure. Skeppy says you would have to trade about 60 to 65 of your Joe Jackson cards for the dual logo man, Jay Lee. Seems way out of line when you look at it that way. I mean, yeah, I suppose so, but Apex or Elite, the most elite cards of them all, sell for just money that might not make sense to very many people, and but that's FU money. I think this card here, I think is an FU money card, because I think it is a special card. Is it overpriced at $9.2 million? Hell yeah, I think, but I think it's, I don't know. I mean, I at the same time, I kind of get it, right? Some people have that kind of money. They want the best of the best. Chris, like, where does this fall in your mind? Like, basketball cards better than I do. Of all the basketball cards ever made on the planet, where does this one rank? Like, is this the number one card? Is it a top 3, top 5? Michael Jordan PMG green numbered out of 10 would be up there as well. And I'm not talking about any PSA 10 vintage card. None of those count. No PSA 10 card counts to me vintage wise. They're out of the discussion because it's grading scarcity alone. I'm not out of, so that with those parameters in place, Chris, where does this card fall in your mind?
It's quite high. Let me give you a bull case and a bear case on this card, because I've kind of lean in one direction, but I want to give it a fair shake. The bull case for this card is that it is the only dual logo man autograph card of Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. That's it. As far as elevator pitches for cards go, they don't get much better. And especially if somebody is very high on Kobe and Jordan, who sort of are the cultural icons and had similar playing styles, but distinguished, a sort of torch passing happened at that all-star game from Jordan to Kobe and so on and so forth. And then the mentorship mentee relationship that followed after, there's a real case to be made that these are the first two heads on the Mount Rushmore of most important cultural figures in the history of the sport of basketball. So there's the bull case. And so in other words, there is a case to be made that this is the greatest card, but you have to, in basketball, but you have to take a lot of those premises into account. You have to really grant the importance of Kobe and MJ, and you have to grant the importance that of dual logo man and autographs and so on and so forth. But that's the bull case. There's a case to be made. It's the best card. Here's the bear case. The bear case is that Michael Jordan is definitely the greatest player of all time. Kobe is maybe, depending upon who you ask, he's top 5 or he's top 10 or he's top 15. So, so there's another case to be made that Kobe maybe isn't really on the same tier as Michael Jordan, and that if this were Michael Jordan's only logo man autograph card or Michael Jordan's first logo man autograph card, now you might have a stronger case than the case you have if Kobe is on the card with him, because depending upon how you assess basketball history, depending upon how you perceive the Mount Rushmore of basketball, that's going to depend upon how important you think it is that Kobe and Jordan are both on this card. So there is also another perspective that says this is a great card. This comes from the exquisite dual logo man autograph tradition, 2 very important iconic figures, but I'm not going to rank it that high. I'm not going to make it a Mount Rushmore card because my sense of basketball history says one guy's the GOAT, the other guy probably isn't.
Well, I hear you. Interesting to think about what could be as well. But to the question specifically, what cards that exist are better than this one in your mind, Chris? Like, is the PMG Green Michael Jordan a more valuable, a more important card than this?
I can't say which one is better from the hobby's point of view. I just can't do that because there's a diversity, a multiplicity of opinions, and they might not agree with me. I can say what I think matters, and I think so for one, this card comes years after Jordan retired. Some people care about playing days, some people don't. Some people care about proximity to playing days, some people don't. This is nowhere near a rookie card for either player. Some people think rookie card is very important, some people don't. So I can't rank this card, Jeremy. I love to think about it.
Thanks
I love it as
coming
an
on the
exercise.
show, Chris. Appreciate you being here. All right, guys, we're gonna. He can't.
I'll see you guys next year.
He's not going to answer the question. He's no longer going to be off.
There is a significant rush to assets right now, though. That's one thing I'm noticing is there is a clamoring and a hyperness to accumulating assets in this economy, in this market. And this is probably one of the best assets actually available to buy with people's money. And sometimes that's what matters most.
Right. What's available and what isn't at that time. Yeah. Okay, let's run through some more comments here. Anthony says, yeah, I got no issues with Cajun, and I don't even collect Jordans. 90s B-Ball says, can we just talk about Chris's name for a second? Chris GPT. Yeah, that's his new name on Sports Cards Live, Chris GPT. If you don't get it, you don't watch. Mookie, just ask any doctor. Second opinions are very valuable. A PSA grade from 1999 should never be the last word. I certainly agree with that comment from Mookie. Yankees fan says, I wish we could get a recount on the PSA card registry. Wouldn't that be nice for that to become accurate again? Yes, it would be. Dan's Vintage says it's not even a real card. It's a creation of Upper Deck's imagination. Everything's a I don't know, Dan. I definitely don't agree with that comment. I think every card is a product of somebody's imagination, and it is a real card. So I don't know about that comment, Dan. Texas Ranger says, is a sports card overpriced at $9.2 million? A sentence I never thought I'd hear. Yeah, no doubt. WNBAcards.com says some people also want to tell other people how much they paid for something. Yeah, definitely. It's a flat. People like to flex, no doubt. Those back pages says surface wrinkles are a collector's best friend. And Mike Petty says back damage is my best friend. I say I love both. Give me a little surface crease to bring a card from a 7 down to a 2. Talk to me, especially when you have to use a flashlight and loop to even see that wrinkle. I love it. Dan Brown says, Jeremy, the SGC 2.5 1914 Joe Jackson on Heritage is currently at 185 before BP. So I didn't even know that there was one there. Let's go take a look at that because I do have a somewhat of a vested interest in that. So let's go here and type in Joe Jackson. Joe Jackson. And let's see what, oh, here it is. So this card is 1914 SGC 2.5 sitting at $225,000. my Joe Jackson used to be an SGC 2.5 as well. It's definitely nicer than this one. So this makes me feel validated that I made a good decision when I did. Got a little bit lucky as well, but let's see if another bid comes in the last 6 seconds, or will this just happen to end right when we look at it within a minute? That's pretty funny. At $225,700, looks like it did. So that's a good sign for my, I want to say, collector investor deployment of funds or something silly like that, because definitely collecting the card, but it was definitely an investment as well. Triple V says, Jaylee, what are the chances that Patrick Bet David is bidding on the dual logo man? I mean, Triple V, you're asking like I could put a percent on that, an odds on that. I have no clue. I don't know that he would be. I see him as, just knowing what he's bought in the past, I don't know that this is a card for him, but I have no clue. I haven't talked to him since he was on this show about 4 years ago. And Dan's Vintage says the greatest card in basketball history is the Mikan or Wilt or Alcindor. Those are actual cards, not some post-playing days creation of Upper Deck's imagination. Well, we are going to agree to disagree on that one, Dan. And those are great cards, don't get me wrong, but they are mass-produced. And I think when we're talking about greatest cards, we were building it, at least in that discussion at that time, not all the time. We were building in rarity, bells and whistles like autographs, game used logo men, brand being exquisite. All these things were built in to that discussion. And while I agree with Dan that Mikan, Wilt, and Lou are amazing cards, I love them all. I only own one at this time, but I strive to own a Mikan again, or not again for the first time. I don't know that they are the greatest cards in history, though. So a lot of people would argue that it's the 86 Fleer Michael Jordan, as it appears, as by most counts, as a top 3 iconic card in the whole hobby ever. So anyway, this is all subjective, and I respect Dan's. I know Dan. It says right in his name, Dan's Vintage. He's a vintage guy, so he's gonna put his foot down when it comes to vintage quite a bit. Brent, Chris, any thoughts on anything over the past couple of minutes you'd like to add in? Anything catch your mind? Anything of interest for you?
Brent, you look like you might have something.
I don't.
Okay, yeah, I don't. I love Dan. I hear what Dan's saying. I think that these discussions always get so complicated, and I love these discussions, and it's just something that we're not going to settle here. But like with Michael Jordan collecting, something that's so interesting about it to me is that Michael Jordan doesn't have anything even close to a perfect card. So for ultra modern player collecting, really starting like in the late 2000s and up until today, like let's take Steph Curry, for example. Steph Curry has a Topps Chrome Superfractor 1/1. Steph Curry has a National Treasures vertical logo man autograph 1/1. The autograph is on card. He has 2 cards right there that I just named that come from some of the highest end or most premium brands, the most widely recognized brands, and that are pretty close to being perfect or pretty close to being just the epitome of what an Apex card should be. Michael Jordan, and they're from his rookie season. Those are from Curry's rookie season, fully licensed, etc. Michael Jordan doesn't have anything close to that. Michael Jordan has the 1984 star, and we don't need to go down that rabbit hole and discuss its merits and its cons. He has the 86 Fleer, the 86 Fleer sticker. He has the Interlake. He has the Nike promo. Then you get to the 90s, and at the tail end of his career, you start getting 1/1s and ultra rare parallels and credentials and PMGs and rubies. And then after he retires, you start getting, I guess like during his final Wizards year, he has those 3 Logomania autograph logo man cards, and then you get the Ultimate Collection, then you get this post-playing day stuff. I mean, all these cards have great things going for them, but none of them are the perfect thing. Michael Jordan doesn't have that rookie year Prism Black 1/1. He doesn't have that. So every Michael Jordan card is flawed. That's one of the most interesting components of Michael Jordan collecting, is that you're never going to get this perfect consensus card. A lot of people have centered around the PMG green. The PMG green has 10 copies. Some people might say that's 9 too many. So you don't have a perfect. You're never going to get a perfect Michael Jordan card.
Well, no, Chris. Actually, there is one. Mookie Chilson calls out the 1991 Upper Deck SP1 is the perfect Michael Jordan card. If you raise your hand if you pulled one of those back in the day. Yeah. I like how you put it. Michael Jordan cards are flawed. He doesn't have that perfect card, but that also is something that makes it fun. You get to pick what is the perfect Michael Jordan card, or what is the apex Michael Jordan card. And to me, the green PMG is a top candidate, but I would also, because I don't mind post-playing days cards, I would also love just a Michael Jordan autographed logo man or a beautiful limited logos. Those are perfect cards to me too. I don't need one-on-ones all the time. I know you're on a one-on-one binge right now, Chris, and I know right? And that's just different styles of collecting. So it's
one of the boundaries I'm noticing that Jordan pushed aside is the non-playing days, especially with Exquisite. And I notice when it's an on-card auto and a game-used jersey and a card, I almost feel like that trumps it being non-playing days for me. There's something about that brings me closer to the player that I'm willing to let it go that it's non-playing days if it's game-used and if it's on-card auto. Something about that, I feel like it crosses it out, and I'm willing to go there with it. And I think you're seeing that a lot with the Jordan market and non-playing days because, he didn't have any, playing days autos and game used jerseys, very few. Like it's just such a scarce thing that I love that idea. So I found myself even buying Exquisite Magic Johnson and Larry Bird for that same reason. Yeah. I love those, like Magic and Larry have no 90s PMGs. They have no 90s rubies. So to get a rare and scarce card of Magic and Larry that have game used jerseys and on-card autographs, that's your only opportunity. So I think that's really cool when you get those you can expand those parameters and also include non-playing days. I see a lot of newer markets too, where there's a lot of hype and a lot of froth where boundaries are being expanded considerably. And that's something I look for to see where new collectors are entering in markets. So you notice like a lot of the Caitlin Clarks that were first coming out with sticker autos that were going for massive amounts of money. That to me was a little bit of a red flag that maybe there's some new collectors coming into that space, because it seemed like any boundary that I'm used to setting or having around cards was being blown out of the water and didn't matter. Didn't matter if it was college uniform, didn't matter if it was sticker auto. None of those things matter. So I find all that interesting.
Yeah. You mentioned the Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and I like auto. Like I love my vintage. I like modern too. I like auto patches. I've got what I consider to be a kick butt. I'm not going to kick butt auto patch collection, or just patches even. And if I wanted to add a Larry Bird or Magic Johnson, there's lots of options and a nice Exquisite limited logos or something from Immaculate or Flawless or whatever. There are options for these cards. It has to be on card. It has to be game used for me, but I can't go back to their playing days and buy those cards. So I am willing to buy cards like that and add those to my collection, because those are two guys that are nostalgic for me. I mean, I grew up watching Magic and Bird. That's and Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars and Vinnie Johnson and Rodman and all these guys on the Pistons. But I have nothing against many non-playing day, post-playing day cards. Okay, Dan here says artificial rarity isn't real rarity. I push back again, Dan. I think it is real rarity. I think it's just different rarity, but it is still rarity because there aren't an unlimited amount of them and there's not enough to go around. So it is rare. Oh, there's another bid in, I think, on the card, guys. We're now up to 7.8 million with 10 seconds. Let me refresh. $7.8 million now, guys. 9.5 million with the buyer's premium. This card is inching its way to 8 figures. We are at $9.5 million. Okay, just wanted to call that out really quick there. Okay, but back to this comment from Dan. I think artificial rarity is still rarity. It is rarity. It's just different rarity. And maybe what Dan feels is that it's a lesser type of rarity. It's an inferior rarity. I kind of agree with that. I do. It is manufactured, whereas the organic rarity that Dan loves, and I love too, is on cards that have survived when they weren't meant to. That's what Dan is prioritizing. It's what most vintage collectors prioritize. I even prioritize that. I love that. But I don't need it to be a PSA 10 or 9. I need it to look good. Just look good. I want my vintage cars to have lived a life. Okay. Turban Force says, don't be surprised if Shine, I think it's Shine 150 or Shine 450 don't be surprised if he isn't the buyer. That could make sense. The guy seems to be made of money and buys big cards, so it could be him. Yankees fan says, nice for your purchase, Jeremy, on the Joe Jackson. It will keep on going up from here. I hope it does. And thank you, Yankees fan. I'm very happy with that addition to my collection. Joseph Zavero says, Michael Jordan is by far the king of collectibles. Oh, wait, Ken Gold might have something to say about that. There is no number 2, and that's coming from a vintage baseball card guy. So I love Joe's comment here because he's recognizing the fact that Michael Jordan is the king of the hobby as far as an athlete goes, or a subject of it. Okay, guys, we are now at $8.1 million, 9.882 out the door.
It's going over 10 for sure.
It has to hit 10.
Someone wants a 10 number for sure.
It's one bid away. If the next bid is going to be 8.2 million, that'll put it over the top, guys. We are about to see a $10 million card sell here live on Sports Cards Live and Heritage Auctions. Thank you to Heritage for that. Back to Joseph's comment. I like his comment, how much respect he is giving to Michael Jordan, but where'd it go? Here it is. But I think there is a number 2. There has to be, because, and this goes to a discussion that I've had offline, actually, with, I think it was offline with Chris and some others lately, where, does the first really matter? Like, I love rookie cards. So whenever you hear me pushing against rookie cards, it's not because I don't respect them or understand their importance in the hobby. It's just, I just wonder why. It seems arbitrary to me. Well, because it's the first. Well, why? Because firsts matter. And Chris will give you a whole breakdown, both his own and ChatGPT's, on why firsts matter. And I get it. But to this comment from Joseph, if firsts matter, if there is a first, there is, by definition, there is a second as well. So with that said, who is this, right, Chris? I think you'd agree with that comment, with my comment there. If there is a first, there's only a first if there's also a second. Otherwise, is there even a first? Or is
I think technically
that might not be true. That might not be true.
A first can be a first without a second, but the first is also the last, so it's a meaningless distinction.
Thank you. But there can't be a second without a first. So that makes sense. But in any event,
when I look back at, like say it's 1975 and every single year Topps is coming out with the set and every single year it's the same. And if a player is in year 10, 15, 20, they're just going to keep having the same card every year, set after set. Now, all of a sudden, a rookie card creates rarity and scarcity and a boundary around your collecting when every single year the cards are the same. Looking at this Kobe and Jordan, it's clear that collecting has changed.
10 million.
There it
10
is.
million.
Yep.
$187,000. Chris, we have 8 figures on the dual logo, man.
Jeremy, we broke the Luka trade live a few months ago, and now we're breaking the second ever public 10 million plus card sale live.
Only the second ever 8-figure sports card sale just happened tonight, August 23rd, 2025, live on Sports Cards Live. Well, we are just spectating, guys. I get it, but congratulations to the seller. Congratulations to Heritage Auctions. Congratulations to the buyer, and congratulations to the hobby. I think, or I mean, some people might see this as a disaster. Some people see this as a boon, as a really great thing for the hobby. So however you see it, either congratulations or my condolences, but it is a lot of fun to be witnessing it here tonight with everybody, with Brent, Chris, and everybody in the chat. Glad you guys are all here. Back to Joseph's question here. Who's number 2? If Jordan is number 1, who is number 2? I'm going to give you some options. Mickey Mantle, LeBron James, Tom Brady. Those are the ones that come to immediate mind for me. I mean, maybe Kobe as well. It's not going to be Wayne Gretzky. It's not going to be Ronaldo. It's not going to be Messi. Is it going to be Shohei? Is it Babe Ruth? I don't know. Brent, let's go to you. If Michael Jordan is clearly number 1, I think we all agree with that. Just for sport, who is number 2? And by the way, I just want to say we have 263 people watching right now between all. It's not a record for the show, but it's a lot. And I'm just grateful for everybody who is here. So thank you, everybody, for being with us, whether you're on. And if you are on Instagram, guys, come on over to YouTube. That's where you can join the chat and be involved in the show, but also everybody watching on X and YouTube as well. Thank you for joining us. Okay. Who's number 2, Brent?
So when I first saw this, I thought about collectibles, right? Like as a whole, not just cards, and Babe Ruth instantly came to me. I feel like my entire life growing up, the mystique of Babe Ruth and any collectible, glove, card, jersey, anything of Babe Ruth was just, monumental. So I would say it's got to be Babe Ruth. And I don't know that we have a current active next. I feel like it's almost gone from Babe Ruth to Jordan, and it's just still Jordan now. And it may be Jordan for a long time. I don't know if we really have a second tier. I feel like Kobe, LeBron, Brady, they feel all like in a similar tier to me. I don't see a defined one like a Babe Ruth or a Jordan. So those would be my 2.
I might go with Dan on Mantle, simply because there's so many Mantle collectors. Baseball is still number 1 in the hobby. I think Chris could probably validate that better, but I mean, there's just, baseball is what the hobby is built on, really, baseball cards. Originally anyway. I know basketball's, made a lot of gain on that, but I think Mantle might be the one for me, Brent. But that's also vintage. I know you might be thinking a bit more on the modern. Well, you said Babe Ruth too. Who were the 2 you said? Babe Ruth and who?
No, I said Babe Ruth would be my number 2, just as far as collectability for collectibles in general. I think he was always number 1 prior to Jordan. And then now that Jordan is number 1, if we're going to call Jordan number 1, I would still put Babe Ruth as number 2. Like I'll bet you Babe Ruth bats, gloves, jerseys, you name it, would outsell Mantle.
Cards wise though?
Cards also. Yeah, I mean, I think Mantle has the highest selling specific one card, but Chris could probably say more as far as a market cap goes, what Babe Ruth has versus Mantle.
Yeah, let's hear from you on this, Chris.
Yeah, Ruth doesn't have the volume of cards that Mantle does, which probably tips in Mantle's favor.
Sorry, I just put this up, and then I saw number 4.
Yeah, number 4. I don't know. Yeah, maybe LT's even 3. We don't know. LT is very underrated, though. MVP,
so underrated.
Probably the
Deep
greatest season ever played at the running back position. But look, here's the players with the highest selling single cards. We obviously have talked about the 52 tops Mantle. That's number 1. Number 2 is Hannes Wagner. Number 3, Babe Ruth, 1914, Baltimore News. So there's your top 3, right? Is those guys. Now, I want to talk a little bit about guys who are not number 2, but they still are part of this discussion. I think Gretzky and Messi are in this category where they're the apex of their categories. And I'm not saying those categories are ever going to reach the level of basketball, baseball, football, but if they ever did, I would watch out for those 2 guys. And then we do have some actives. I think Ohtani is a huge favorite to win his 4th MVP this year. He will be the only player not named Barry Bonds to have more than 3 MVPs. The only guy. We're watching the new Babe Ruth do Babe Ruth things live in front of our eyes. And in sports collectibles in particular, it's very exciting, specifically because of how popular Asian professional athletes are with the Asian collecting community, and they are market makers. So I think Ohtani he is one of the most exciting things going in the hobby right now. And then I have to say Mahomes too. Now, full disclosure, I do collect Mahomes and I collect Michael Jordan. So, take everything I say with a grain of salt and assume bias and so forth. But Mahomes has had a first half of a career that is only rivaled by Brady's. So still has to do a second half, but this guy already, I think, is a consensus top 5 quarterback, and let's see how many years he has left to go.
So Ohtani, I'm going to just share an opinion on
like
a guy like
I'm not answering any question tonight.
Guys like Ohtani and Mahomes and Caitlin Clark, they're not even in the conversation for me, simply because they just don't have enough cards. They have not been around long enough to establish themselves in the same conversation as people like Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, Kobe Bryant, even LeBron James, who's only been around for 22 years, but still. So nothing against these guys. I think they need more time and more cards to step into this discussion of who's really a number 2. And I think for me, it comes back to Mickey Mantle. I think it's Mickey Mantle in the card world. Someone made a comment here about attainable here. Hobby Champs here says, I don't think Babe Ruth is eligible. To be eligible, a player must have attainable assets. Ruth's attainable assets aren't even that expensive. Aren't even that expensive. Live like low grade Gaudis, etc. No way he's second. I don't know how you measure this. I don't know how we decide what makes you second. Is it total market cap of all your cards? Is it the amount of cards that sell every year? Is it the most valuable card you have? Like Honus Wagner is not in the discussion. He's nowhere close. He doesn't have enough cards. Babe Ruth probably doesn't have enough cards or enough people that can afford them. But Mickey Mantle, I think it's Mickey Mantle, guys. I mean, just when I continue to think it through, I think it's Mantle. But at number 3, I don't know. Chris, you going to jump in? Brady's probably up there somewhere.
Jackie Robinson has a claim to be top 3 or 4 here. I think he's close.
He's in the discussion.
I think he's in the discussion. I don't know. I think like I don't even know if Michael Jordan is like, Michael Jordan. I mean, maybe after tonight he will, but Michael Jordan doesn't have any cards like Mantle's PSA 10 Pop 3 52 tops. That's a consensus. $30 million card or whatever. Does Michael Jordan have anything in that range? I think Mantle even has a case for number 1 if we want to.
He might for most valuable. Well, this card's now at $11.25 million.
Wow.
It's now well into the 8 figures, guys. It's at $11,224,000. Chris, what is it? This is the second highest on record. Were we at 12.5? Is that the number 1 card?
12.6 is the highest ever.
So we could beat that tonight here, guys. We could beat 12.6 here. Just another. All we need is just a milli. Just a milli. Yeah.
It just jumped up to 11.7.
And it just jumped up to 11.7. Let's see. 11,712,000. We're coming. We're less than a milli away now, guys. Less than a mil. Yeah, this thing isn't over yet. This thing is not over yet. Steve Splenda says, I'd rather sit next to Mahomes at a Chiefs game than buy a sticker auto. That's a fun comment. Splenda, thank you. Joe says, Michael Jordan is by far the king of there. Oh, that's the one that we were doing. I thought that was different. My bad. Turpin Forrester says, if Steph Curry's Superfractor ever surfaced, I know that's a $10 million card easily. Sure it would be. Molico says artists' first pieces are not usually their best or most loved. Right. Mike Nunez says Kobe and Jordan are the 2 most collected basketball players in our hobby, period. I can't argue with that. I don't know for sure. I think Jordan for sure, but the question becomes, is it Kobe or is it LeBron? I feel like it's probably Kobe. Chris, Brent, can either of you opine on that?
I would say most love for sure is Kobe. I actually think there's an opportunity still in LeBron because the incremental buyers are still out there for LeBron. And I think as he's out of the NBA and as he, sunsets out, there'll be more love for LeBron over time. So I always look for incremental buyers. Everybody already loves Kobe now. They didn't used to, but now they do. So I'd say he's probably the more loved player out of the 2, but to me, I see that as an opportunity in the LeBron market.
Chris, what do you think as far as who's number 2 in basketball?
If we're using like highest prices realized on solo cards, like LeBron leads the entire basketball category. He's got the only solo card over 5 million. Like that list of solo basketball cards, $1 million and up, like LeBron dominates that. So if we're talking single card dominance, but that's not only a reflection of the player, that's a reflection of the fact that his rookie season coincided with the debut of Exquisite Basketball, and he's part of the first ever Exquisite RPA out of 99 set, and then he has the gold parallel out of 23 and no other parallels. So it's very simple, and those are incredibly prestigious cards. So I think LeBron has an edge, at least on the single card dominance side of things. But look, man, if you just kind of survey the collecting landscape on Instagram or at a card show, you're going to see some of the most passionate collectors in this hobby. You can put up Kobe collector's passion and enthusiasm and collecting ambition. You can put them up against any player in this hobby, even Jordan.
Yeah. Okay, well, good. Okay, let's sort of move on. Sort of. Mookie says the burrito is exploding. Yes, it is. What's up, Hockey Card Exchange? Welcome to the show. David Kaplan shouts out the Honus Wagner T206 is number 2, but later says no, that's just one card. Hobby Champ says I don't think Babe Ruth. Oh, we did that one. My apologies, everybody. Let me just clear these out.
I love this comment from Casey, by the way.
I haven't. Okay, we'll get to it.
Yeah.
Tony says, I think Jackie will continue to gain momentum. We've just talked about Jackie. Mike Dunya says all of the game use patches of Jordan in Exquisite are actually from his playing days. There's something to be said for that. I think that's
cool. That is cool.
Yep. Seth Kaywood says Ken Kendrick's Wagner, which is the PSA 8, would be the biggest card to sell if it ever went to auction, and it won't. Well, maybe one day, but it might be 50 years from now. But I think he's probably right about that. Mookie Chilson says if a PSA 6 becomes the highest sale ever, grading is the big loser. I wonder if that's an interesting comment. And I wonder if that's the case. I mean, it still says that grading's important. It is in a PSA holder. It is in the number one grading company's holder right now. But the grade on this card doesn't matter to me. It obviously doesn't matter to the bidders either. We're now at $11,773,000 on the card. But I think I wonder, that's a really interesting thought for a whole other discussion, a whole other episode, maybe a bunch of content on that. Like, does this mean the grading is the big loser? I don't think grading is going to be hurt by this. I don't think any PSA 10s are going to be hurt by this, at least appropriately graded ones. I don't know. I like that this is a 6. I think it's a good sign for the hobby. And I don't really think it matters too much, but interesting. Dave Kaplan wants to know, Chris, maybe has this dual logo man changed hands before? Oh, we know it has. Gerald owned it.
Right. Yeah. Adam did a nice reel on that.
Yeah. A guy, Gerald Fortier, someone I've known for several years from the National, going back 20 years or so. He owned this card. I think I heard he bought it for $15,000 or $20,000. He sold it for $175,000, and now it's selling for almost $12 million. But he's a pretty even-keeled guy. He'll be handling it in stride, I'm sure.
He's still got a showcase full of other bangers.
He does. And apparently the owner of this card just gifted him an MJ Exquisite auto patch.
He better bump up that gift. He needs to send a new gift.
Send him 3 more of those. Yeah. Yep. And then finally, Space 99 says the Kobe Jordan logo man was sitting at $6 million for days. Sports Cards Live goes live and the card jumps by millions. Coincidence? I don't think that's a coincidence. SpaceX, thank you for noticing. So we are now at $9,650,000.
One thing I was going to say about this card that I think is interesting when discussing grading is the grade of the specific card and the way that PSA evaluates it is maybe the least important thing about this card. I think that's really interesting about modern patch autos. The auto quality, the blue of the auto, the darkness versus light, the logo man, the game used versus not game used. All those things to me are way more important than the grading of the actual card itself. So in modern collecting, I think this should be this is good for people to see that this kind of card, regardless of the grade of the card itself, isn't even that important. The auto quality is more important. The logo man, if it's game used, is more important. So I find that really interesting. And that's the way I tend to collect myself. I shared that LT earlier. I'll bet you most people couldn't even say what grade it was. Most of the focus is on the shields, the auto quality, Exquisite, the set. What grade it is, if it's a 5, 6, 7, 8, like, what does that matter?
Brent, I asked you to show it again. I did not look at the grade. I don't even know what grade that card is. Yeah, is it a 9? I'm guessing. Is it a 9? Like, Did I see it subconsciously?
I think so.
What is it? Do you want to say?
I'll show it again.
It's an 8. It's a 6.
6 with a 10 auto. Can you see it?
Yeah, it's a 6. Yeah.
6 with a 10 auto. I don't even know why it's a 6. Don't care. Don't need a magnifying glass.
Exactly. Don't care who. It doesn't matter. We've had a lot of people comment on that basically. Like here. So Tony says, would this card have sold for this number if it wasn't graded? I actually wonder if it would sell for more if it wasn't graded. Like, legit wonder. People might, it might be an 8 or a 9. Maybe it would sell for more. I don't know. If anyone wants to jump in, just jump in on that. Molico says grade does not matter for cards like this to the same level as other cards. 100% agree with that. Turp Enforcer says grade doesn't matter on a 1 of 1. Stale Prod says grading matters very little to 1 of 1 that are wanted. The only thing I'll say is that condition does matter a bit. I think the grade might not matter, but the condition. You take a 1 of 1 card that has dents on the corners and scratches through the surface, I think it's going to matter. But if the grade accurately reflects those flaws or imperfections, then I think it does matter to a degree. But if the card looks this good for a 6, doesn't matter. Thoughts, Chris? I know I can see your brain churning.
Well, I love what Casey said. Casey was like, imagine if it was a PSA 7, right? Because it's like, oh, well, if it's a PSA 7, then it's 15 million now or something.
I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Which is a great comment. But let's take that thought to its extreme.
Oh, Casey, right here. Sorry, I didn't see it.
Yeah. So that made me laugh. Okay, but
we're 12. We're 12.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
All right, it's almost there. It's almost there.
We are almost at the biggest record, the record-breaking most expensive card ever sold publicly. Sorry, Chris, please continue.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's almost like twice what it was when we started watching. That's crazy. Okay, what if this card was a PSA 10 autograph grade 10 and the condition accurately reflected that? Like this truly was a 10. It truly was gem mint. It was flawless, or 1 flaw is allowed, I think, on a 10. And the autograph was a 10 too. Then I might see a case for it selling for even higher if it was a true 10-10.
10 auto would make an impact for sure. Even on this grade with a 10 auto would make it more valuable.
Does it? I don't really disagree. I'm not saying you're wrong, but does it bump up the bid?
Because we're doing two different things. We're making a descriptive argument of what we think would happen in the world. There probably is some guy out there who would maybe bid a little more if it was a 10-10, maybe. And then there's the normative argument, which is should a 10-10 matter on a card like this? I'm certainly in the boat of no. I'm certainly in the boat of if I'm going for this card, I want it as a 6 rather than a 10-10, because then I'm going to be able to get it for less.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah, you'll get it for 12.3 instead of 18 million. He's gonna get it for less, guys. Mookie Chilson says the PSA authentication matters way more than the condition grade, I agree. And it's not only the PSA authentication, it's the fact that it is in the PSA slab. That it doesn't. It's all part and parcel. I get it, but just the fact that it's in the PSA slab, I think, is very helpful to the card. Sort of unrelated, not funny, says Shaq gets no love. Now, I collect some Shaq cards. I know you do too as well, Brent. And I've noticed that since I got into Shaq, they've been getting some love. So, Brent, maybe you're watching, because I'm not really
These
watching.
Are a couple of my favorites.
So he's showing a couple of PMG Reds, 97 Metal Universe Shaq PMGs, a PSA 6.5, and is that the 5 in your?
5,
yeah. Beautiful cards. I own one of those myself. We're card bros on that card there, Brent. But are you noticing as well that Shaq is getting no love? Guys, we're now at 12.4. So another bid has come in, by the way. So, Chris, we're now only 155K away.
I'm just thinking about how amusing it would be if it just stopped here and we didn't break that record and all the headlines that are waiting to be written, and it just doesn't do it. We just come up just shy. Come on, man, put in another bid. Let's get over the record.
So, Brent, what do you think about Shaq? The comment that Shaq gets no love. I think he's getting more love than before, but what are you seeing?
I definitely think he's getting more love than before. And this whole idea that big men don't get love and then Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell cards sell and break records, I think is always made me chuckle a little bit. But I specifically love Shaq cards that are anchored by Jordan in very desirable sets. And so that's what I always loved Shaq. When I was a kid, Shaq was the chase. In 1992, Shaq was the chase. It wasn't Jordan. Shaq was, what captivated me. So, but the one thing I will say, and I hate to say this because the investment side of me is always considering things, is undervalued tends to stay undervalued and overvalued tends to stay overvalued. So if you're constantly looking for what's undervalued all the time, it's going to tend to stay undervalued, as you can see in this card at $12 million. So if you're busy buying Shaqs for the last 5 years because he's undervalued and not buying Jordan and Kobe for the last 5 years, you're seeing there's no $12 million Shaq. So I love Shaq. I love collecting Shaq. I think he's going to continue to age like a fine wine in his collecting. But it's just an interesting topic.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Shaq is well, I collect him because I have nostalgia, and I also think there's some potential upside to him. Go ahead, Chris.
I can add some color to this too. Shaq has one of the most beautiful indexes you'll see in Card Ladder. Almost every index in Card Ladder has this huge peak in 2021, and then maybe it's back to half, 60, maybe 70% of its peak if the player's doing really well right now. That's what an index looks like for Mahomes. That's what it looks like for Curry. That's what it looks like for a lot of these players who are having a nice run right now. If you look at Shaq, he is just the slightest increment away from actually being back at his all-time high on his Card Ladder index. And over the last year, Shaq's Card Ladder index has increased by 40%, making it one of the top performing indexes that we have in Card Ladder. And bear in mind, in order to qualify for a Card Ladder index, a card must be something that we are actively tracking, and it must have sold at least twice within the last year and once in the last 6 months. So that removes a lot of his most rare and desirable cards, which would pull up this index even further if those were permitted to enter the index. So we're looking at an index of mostly Shaq rookie year cards, 90s inserts type of cards that sell frequently, and that category itself is among the best performing of any player in our hobby. And it's one of those rare indexes where Shaq is a guy who's actually almost back to where he was in 2021.
Thanks for the color. And we are still at 10-2 plus BP for 12,444. We got 25 minutes for another bid to come in. Southern Collector Tony says, I'm now convinced Jordan himself is bidding on this card. He always wanted to be the best. Now he will have the highest priced card. He made up a perceived slight against his hobby standing. I mean, if Jordan's bidding on this, I can't imagine he is, but I like, it's fun to think that he would be. Here, how about this question from Dan? If this card was in a CGC slab, does it go for $4 million? That's it. I don't know. I don't know if Dan is onto something here or not. Let's speculate, because we will never know. We will never know what would have happened here today in August 2023 or 2025 if this card was in a CGC holder. 4 million. I don't know. Maybe.
Depends on the sophistication of the buyers. Like if people are in the hobby, they know that Andy Broom went over to CGC. They sort of know who the players are. They know the CGC has a reputation of a grader. They look at gem rate data. They have an idea of who the players are and stuff like that. Like instead of CGC, if it's BGS, how much of a difference does that make? Or if it's CGC versus PSA versus BGS versus SGC, like I think we could probably consider all those. But I think if this is a newer buyer, then they want to see the PSA slab. They want to see the PSA label. They want to know that they are buying from the entity that owns the lion's share of the market. But a more sophisticated buyer could probably figure out, I shouldn't bid any less just because it's graded by a different company, because if I want to put it in a PSA holder, I know that this is a reputable company and I should be able to cross it. So, or I could have experts come take a look at it and sort of help me decide, make sure that this is authentic, make sure that everything lines up, and I could put it into a different holder. So I think if the buyers are very sophisticated, then even back to your point, Jeremy, if it wasn't even graded at all, if it was still in a sealed one touch, a factory sealed one touch, let's say. So I don't know, man. I think it really depends on who the buyers are.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. I think it matters a bit, but I don't know exactly how much. I don't think we can know. But it's a fun question. It's something fun to think about. Kinger says this will be the highest sale non-rookie card. May I ask what the highest sale number is?
Can we just say it? Can we name the elephant in the room on this question? The 1952 Topps Mantle is the highest selling card. That's not a rookie card.
Not a rookie card. It's not a rookie card, but it's different than this not being a rookie card, because while it's not a rookie card, it is the most iconic card in the whole hobby.
Right.
And it is the most desired Mickey Mantle card out there.
And a first Topps. It's a rookie Topps if we want to be generous.
It's a bit of an asterisk on that not being a rookie card thing, but the point is still well taken. Steve Splenda says modern big men don't get love. It took Jokic 2 MVPs and a championship to finally get some hobby love. Then he won a 3rd MVP. I mean, Chris, you collect Jokic, and Jordan, you might have a comment on that.
Don't worry about Jokic. You guys don't think about him. You don't need to worry about him. He's a bum. Don't think about him.
He's a bum.
You guys look elsewhere.
Today's goat is tomorrow's bum.
Yeah. Here's something we have to consider, because you got to wonder, like, so we have this auction, this bidding war going on right now on this dual logo man. And I wonder right now and Tony Southern Collector is asking the same question. Do you guys think that the underbidder tapped out because of the shipping cost on this card?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. How does it go? Well, I don't know how you make a joke about making a joke, but that's what that would be. Yes, Hobby Champs, it would be upsetting if this doesn't break the record after being this close. Like, now we've been sitting here for 10 minutes at 12,444,000. Let's go, people. Let's get some more bids in there. We want to see fireworks here and set the new record tonight. That would be a ton of fun. Yeah, Jahan says you can't bid on this card without a heavy background check. Zach Pierce says at some point a rare card is a rare card. Doesn't really matter the grade or the company. Sucks it's a 6, but it's not like you can't wait around. It's not like you can wait around for a 9. I don't think it sucks it's a 6. Personally, I don't think that even sucks, but I think Zach makes a good point. A rare card is a rare card for sure. Especially
sometimes with modern stuff, it feels a little bit like double dipping, putting so much significance and priority on a high grade of a card that's already rare and scarce and serial numbered to 1 or 5 or 10. I don't get it sometimes. And sometimes there's circumstances where you'll see a PSA 10 of a card numbered to 5 sell for 3x a PSA 9 of a card numbered to 5. They're both patch autos. They're both beautiful autos and beautiful patches. And I just don't get it. It feels like double dipping. I don't see why the grade would matter that much on a card like that. So I love this, because this is going to be already, whether it breaks the record or not, I'm going to be able to point to one of the most expensive cards to ever sell on the planet was a PSA 6. And that will just be enough as an intro, right? Like, let's get this whole grading thing where, you see people posting, I'm buying PSA 10s. What about the card? Does the card matter? Like, are you just, what does that mean? I've always found that so fascinating. And that's such a thing that I'm like, well, what about the card? Is the auto faded? What's the patch look like? Is it game used? Is it sticker auto? Like, what set is it? What player is it? Like, all those things matter to me more than if it's a PSA 10. It's just mind-boggling to me.
Well, Brent, I love hearing you say this. I mean, this is music to my ears. That you feel that way, because why? Because it's how I feel as well. So I like to hear it, but I'm with you 100%. Doesn't matter that this thing is a 6. It is a fantastic card. But hang on, there's a comment that came through here, and I remember hearing something about it. I can't find the comment now. But that the Jordan logo man here might not be game used. Chris, or Brent, do either of you know? Are these logo men both?
I was just straining my neck to read the back of the card because it's tilted sideways. I believe the back side of the card says that the back of the card says something to the effect of the memorabilia on the front side has been certified as game used,
having been used in an NBA game. So whether it was a league game or a special game, I don't know. I usually take that to mean a league game or a playoff game, but maybe someone can fill us in further. Mookie Chilson says, this is actually an amazing moment. For the first time ever, a baseball card may not be the highest sale ever. What does the leaderboard look like 10 years from now? Yeah, all basketball and Shohei Ohtani and Honus Wagner, I think.
Yeah, on the back it says game used twice. It says you've received a Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan game used trading card with the autographs of these athletes. And then later it says on the front of this card are pieces of memorabilia that have been certified from an NBA game as being used. So it says it twice actually in the back that's game used.
There you have it. What does the leaderboard look like 10 years from now? That's a fun thing to think about too. But Chris?
Well, if the singularity doesn't arrive soon enough, and you can ask Ray Kurzweil when that might happen exactly. But if escape velocity isn't reached soon, then there might be a Mantle PSA 10 52 tops that comes up for sale because it has been bequeathed to its new owners. So I think there's a real possibility that over the next 10 years we will see a PSA 10 Mantle sell, one of those three publicly, perhaps. And if it does, then I think that card is still going to be on top for a long, long time. But I don't know. It would need to sell, right? There would need to be something that caused it to sell.
I think one thing that could cause it to sell is the changing of the grading standards with PSA and this idea of eye appeal. And if you have one of those PSA 10 Mantles and you're watching Jeremy Lee on the show enough and you're zooming in a little bit and you see this a little off center, you see some registration issues or you see something's a little off and you don't think it would be a 10 today, I could see how that could start to bother you.
Yeah. Well, that's my whole point with, like, the spell has to fade over time. The Kool-Aid, the effect of the Kool-Aid is going to start to alleviate at some point when people realize, and people like the guy who tonight spent an extra $930,000 on this card just to get the 10 on the label. That's an expensive piece of paper and a plastic holder when you're basically giving 20 times the value to the holder than you are the card. So yeah, it's brutal. I think it's just brutal myself. Steve Splenda, for $12 million, I'm buying Brent's LT, Zin, and a Miller Lite.
Yeah, Steve wants that LT pretty bad.
He's been talking about it all night. Like, I'm glad he's here. He's a loyal viewer. He's been here for a while. Kahan's doing something different. He's, for $12 million, he's building 3 different $4 million collections: Jordan Messi, the Knicks, and Lewis Hamilton. Maybe some Marvel as well. Yeah. There's a lot of things you can do for $12 million, but it brings me back to the wilt here. Spending $976,000 for an 8 masquerading as a 10 versus spending $50,000 for proxy bidding ends in 21. Oh, this one's not over yet. This card could still go up. This PSA 8 could still go up. So, and likely will a bit, I have to think, or I don't even know how much, but maybe this is only a $900,000 overspend. If the 8's worth 75, maybe it's only a $900,000 overspend. There are so many cards I could buy for $900,000 and basically have a nicer wilt for 50 to 75 to 100 grand, whatever it's going to be. And someone put the question in the chat earlier about ego, and I didn't mark the question. I apologize, but someone said, like, how big of a issue or a factor is ego when bidding on a card like this one right here?
Yeah, it's from Ben Burrows. He says,
it's Ben.
I wonder how much ego comes into play here. If you're paying 10 million plus, you probably want the record too, referring to the highest price ever paid, right? Like, come on, let's bump this up another $250,000, and then you can really have the headline that you want.
I mean, there comes a point, Chris and Ben and Brent, where, like, you're spending this sort of what we're calling, if it is FU money, on a card like this, where, yeah, an extra 150, 200 grand is probably not going to change your life at all. If you can spend 12.4, you may as well put this card at the top of the ladder. And I mean, literally speaking, the top of the card ladder. Put it at the very top of that search. Right. That's probably a bit of a trophy sort of thing right there. So, wow, we're coming up to, we got 288 people with us right now, which is a big number. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. I don't know how much of it is this dual logo man or if it's just Brent and Chris, but I'm going to put it on Brent and Chris. So thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Chris Hayes says ego 99.97% of the issue there. Potentially he's right. Rage throwing out all the shilling, Ben Schiller, a bunch of different names. Thorson says, Jeremy, this card, or would you rather buy an OHL or a WHL team? I'll take the card, Thorson. I have no interest in owning a junior hockey team at all. That sounds like more work than fun to me. Dan says Brent's a great guest. Chris is always great. High chat numbers reflect the show quality. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. And Splenda says, I promise I won't comment anymore about a certain running back who will not be named who Brent owns a banger card of. Hey, Splenda, I'm happy you're having fun here watching and being in the chat.
I'll tell Splenda
getting a kick out of it too. What's that?
Yeah,
Brent?
I'll tell Splenda about that card. I mean, I saw that card get posted on one of those greatest cards Instagrams a couple years ago. Never knew where it was. I remember reaching out to Darius, asking him if he knew where it was, asking other people. I found the guy on LinkedIn. I was messaging him on LinkedIn. It was never available. He would never respond to me. Then he posted on eBay initially at a really high price, not taking offers. I messaged him over 3 to 6 months, wouldn't respond to me. And finally, after about a year and a half of thinking about that card, but it makes me think about this Kobe Jordan, and also brings me back to that Wilt. That's a PSA 10. That should be a PSA 7. That would terrify me to spend that much money on a card and then have somebody be able to come along 3 months later, 6 months later, and be like, actually, it's not that nice. Or actually, I have a nicer one. Versus my LT, no one can come along and say they have a nicer Shield vertical exquisite patch auto of LT. Or someone buying that Kobe Jordan, no one will ever be able to come along and say grading standards have changed. I actually have a nicer one. And so there's a certain comfort for me. People call it fake rarity and scarcity. I just don't even know what artificial means when it comes to rare. Either something's rare or it's not. I don't know what that means to say it's artificial. And no one will ever be able to come along with a better LT vertical Shield from Exquisite than mine. And no one will ever be able to come along with a better Jordan Kobe logo man autograph 1 of 1 than that person that buys that card. Versus this whole grading standard thing. I would be terrified if I had a PSA 10 of any vintage card and had you zoom in on it, Jeremy, because I would be sweating the whole time, sweating. And to me, that's just weird. I just think that's like, and to spend 510, and when that mantle PSA 10 that will come to market when someone realizes theirs is probably an 8 or 9 also, that would be terrifying to have you zoom in on it. And you can't do that with these other options. Yeah,
it should be terrifying. I mean, that's why I don't want high grade vintage. I don't believe it. I feel it's either been tampered with, not every case, but I think there's a good chance it's either been tampered with, or it's overgraded, or there's just it's altered to some degree, or it's overgraded. I don't. And of course, the further back you go, the more I feel that way. Even the cards from the 80s, I think you're fine. You know, the manufacturing was a lot better in the 80s, some in the 70s. And this is one of the things about the set registry competition. I don't mind or have any issue or critique about being a set registry participant, a PSA set registry participant. But if you are competing to be at the top of that ladder, and the only way you can do it is by buying overgraded PSA 10s, I just have no respect for that approach to the hobby. And I know there's some very accomplished, wealthy, respected professionals that do that. They just want the grade, and they've told me so. And that's fine. I love that you collect how you like. I don't respect it. I don't respect that method. But that's like, I don't want to come down on anybody for the way they collect, but I don't think that's different than not respecting it. I think I'm trying to find that.
Can I take another angle on this conversation that you guys are having?
Yeah, please.
So Brent, it makes a great point that under the microscope, a card relying on its grade still has to hold up on the eye appeal front too. But I think it can. I think there are true 10s out there that are appropriately graded, and I don't know that we need to completely eschew the ability of a vintage card to be able to attain gem mint status. I think they can. I just think it's very, very rare, and I think independent judgment is the ultimate arbiter here. Using the grade is just one input, but personally looking at it, reviewing it, and coming to the conclusion oneself. But one of the ways that the vintage collecting community and even junk wax era collecting community has sidestepped the need for technical grade to create rarity, like for example the 86 Fleer Jordan, you have 330 PSA 10s, and that sort of created this top layer of that card. Like this is effectively, those are like one of 330s or so. But a different way that's becoming more and more popular, I think, especially recently, is the in-person autograph or the aftermarket autograph. And so tonight actually provided, like Tony was highlighting in the chat much earlier, an exemplar case, which is this 52 Topps mantle with an in-person autograph, sold for $1.067 million. That's the highest sale. If I've properly punched in my search into Card Ladder sales history, that's the highest selling signed 52 Topps mantle of all time that just sold tonight. I think there's a lot of momentum around the fact that, I don't know how many signed mantles there are. I don't think it's a ton. Jordan, I don't know how many signed like 84 Star, 86 Fleers there are, but this is sort of a way of creating rarity that doesn't depend on condition, that still is a form of appetizing rarity to at least some collectors, is putting this autograph from the player on the card, and then that creates a subset. And then you're not only depending on the eye appeal or the condition, but you're also depending upon the addition of this artifact to increase the desirability of the card by making it more rare, because maybe there's 100,000 86 Fleer Jordans out there or more, but only, let's just say 300, or I don't know how many, I'm just completely making that up, only some small subset have an autograph.
Yeah, autographs. That's what the vintage autograph collectors hang their hat on, is that it adds, well, aside from the fact that the player touched the card and signed it, is that it's another way to add scarcity to a mass-produced card, like a Michael Jordan 86 Fleer. But back to your comments about vintage PSA 10s. What are there? 2 Mickey Mantle 52 Topps PSA 10? Three of them. 3 of them. I mean, Chris, I'm highly skeptical that any of them are natural. Highly skeptical. Like even the it's been said a million times, but the card that PSA hangs its hat on, the Tito 6 Honus Wagner PSA 8, it's not a natural card. It was not cut by the factory. It was cut or trimmed by Bill Mastro. So I mean, not that has any impact on any other card. That is its own silo. I recognize that, but I have looked at even since starting this channel and covering high-end cards, looking at them up close and just being like, really, that's a 10. The biggest. Another bid says YK. Hold on, guys. Are we there? Let's refresh.
No, it's still a little shy, I think.
Oh, it's $34,000 shy of the record. We need one more bid. One more bid to hit the record, Chris. $12,566,000 right now for this card. Holy mackerel. We're bringing fish into it now, guys. Holy mackerel. But anyway, back to the PSA 10 thing. Yeah, I'm skeptical of high grade vintage, and yeah, I just am. You know what? I hope that I find some cards where I don't have to be, and I don't think that it's out of question. There can be some, Chris, but I just don't know. I don't know. I just don't think
what I think is weird is people will openly talk about, the 3 mantles that are PSA 10s and a lot of these high grade cards as, being trimmed or not really 10s, but yet it still doesn't really seem to matter if one comes to auction. Everyone pretty much agrees it's going to sell for some crazy amount. That's what I get so confused about, is everyone openly talks about these cards and this and that and how they're not actual cards, or, they're whatever, they've been, trimmed. But then if a PSA 10 mantle does come to auction, it's going to sell for some crazy record price while we all know that. So then it's like, I guess I don't really understand it all. I don't know. It's like, just sitting here thinking about that, everyone seems to be in agreement that those either are not true PSA 10s because they're not centered well, or they wouldn't grade now as a PSA 10, or they've been trimmed. but yet if one goes to market, it's going to break records. So what does that tell us?
Yeah, well, until it comes for, because here's the thing. If that card is listed and there's a whole bunch of attention upon it that it is inauthentic in any way, I think that'll hurt the card. That'll hurt the sale. But the fact is that right now, the value is in the holder. It's not in the card. Just look at the contrast between these two. I just closed the one by mistake. But 976 versus 50. That's where the value is in the PSA holder. That's why they charge so much to grade your cards, because they are the ones attributing the value to your card, not the card itself. The value is in PSA, the brand. They have done just an amazing job at building up their brand value. I mean, you have to give it to them. And it's not like it happened overnight. This took a long time to get there, but they got there. And congratulations to them. It's an amazing thing. It allows them to make a ton of money, to charge a lot for the card, for the grading. And I mean, just simple as that. The value is not in the holder. Sorry, the value is not in the card. The value is in the holder when it comes to cards that are of questionable authenticity.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed that's changed a lot in my collecting over the last year or two is I rarely use the word pop report or look up pop reports, or as soon as someone starts telling me the pop of a card, I'm usually uninterested, because usually the card that I'm interested in is rare and scarce enough as it is. I don't need to hear the pop report of it. And so if someone's selling me a card based on pop report, I'm usually turned off by it. That's just an interesting thing I've noticed lately.
The record has fallen.
The record has fallen. There we go. Let's go. Let's refresh. We are now at $12,932,000, guys. 10.6 pre-buyer's premium. This card, even before the increase in buyer's premium from 20 to 22 or whatever it is, would have still broken the record. This is unbelievable, guys. We have now witnessed together we have 200, and let me just do the math. I got to go to Instagram and see how many people we have with us right now, because this is fun. 284 people with us witnessing this. Chris said it first. Kudos.
One small step for the hobby.
One large step for mankind, right? Wow. We are just shy of $13 million. Now how much higher can we go? Here's the question. Is that it? Now that the record's been broken, is that it? Or are we going to flirt with $15 million? It's only $2 million to go. And when does this auction end is the other thing, because we are well into overtime here on Sports Cards Live. This show is not going to... Josh Adams, by the way, Josh Adams was going to join us, but he is at the West Coast Card Show, so he must have been unable. He was having dinner tonight, so he didn't get here in time. But my gosh, guys, it's a big night here. Big night. Congratulations, everybody.
Yeah, this could go all night too, especially if they start, going tit for tat, the minimum at the end of the 30 minutes, just to outlast the other guy.
Mm-hmm. Who's gonna fall asleep first?
Exactly.
I love being on the West Coast for that, when a lot of these auctions are going later, and I'm bidding against people, and I know they're on the East Coast and they just have to stay up later than I do, and it's a nice fun push for that. The fun thing about this too is, what cards is this going to bring out? Because after a big sale like this, there's going to be a couple things that come out that are going to be claimed to be better than this card. So that will be fun and interesting too. A bull frothy market has a tendency to bring out some of the best cards.
Oh, yeah.
Very well said. Yeah, it's such a good point. We will see. Well, the next few Ken is on the phone with people right now. Brent's going to be on the phone with people after this is over, drawing out those monsters.
See what happened last night? Time
to
take some money off the table, right?
Yeah.
Let's do some quick First of all, Situational Adventures just joining in, got back from the Cubs game. Welcome to the show, Situational Adventures. Skeppy says Jay Lee will have to change the title to this YouTube video as spending FU money can be FS, F and silly maybe. No, I don't think that. Wander Franco says, normally at 10 p.m. on a Saturday night, I'm spending quality time with my hot American wife, but not tonight while these three card heads are live. Yes, we are. Welcome to the show, Wander Franco. Again, super collector. Hobby Champ says, I agree, Jeremy. That's why I'd be weary about pop rarity. Jordan PSA 10s that are clearly peaking. It's a bubble. I don't really mind Jordan PSA 10s doing what they're doing. It's the ones that aren't 10s. I'm always going to come back to the overgraded card, the overgraded copies. Ben Burrow says, for those who are wondering, the shipping right now is at $19,937 to ship this card. Mollico says, wasn't the first ever card graded trimmed. Yes, we've talked about it a couple times already tonight, Mollico, but welcome to the show. Mookie Chilson says the record sale of all time is an Upper Deck card. That's a neat way to look at it. Upper Deck now holds the mantle, not the Mickey mantle, but the mantle for the #1 card sale of all time, or public anyway. That's pretty cool. Andrew Deutsch says, I guess I'm not the only one celebrating, but it's cool though. Oh, well, it is. I guess I'm not the only one celebrating. So you're not celebrating, or you are celebrating, Andrew. Steve Splenda says, if this live doesn't continue through the completion of this auction, I'm writing a letter to HR, a stern letter to HR. Well, I am HR, Steve Splenda, and I hope I can do you proud here, but it'll have to end in the next 21 and a half minutes, or we will not be seeing it through to completion, I don't think. Mookie Chilson says, the highest recorded sale of all time is now a PSA 6 Upper Deck basketball card. I'm adding an Upper Deck there, but it's a PSA 6 Upper Deck basketball card. How awesome is that? I love it. I think that just makes it so cool. Oh, here's another. All sorts of trivia coming out now. Mookie Chilson says the highest sale of all time features a living man for the first time. And let's face it, it should feature 2 living men. One obviously died early by accident.
That's a great point.
A Wager sold privately last year for a Wagner sold privately last year for 22 million, says YK. Privates don't count unless they're in Card Ladder. Junk Wax Museum says, wonder if Logan Paul has shed any tears tonight. Jay Mollico, is Adam alive at this point? He's talking about Adam Gray, I am thinking. Right? Is that who he's talking about, Chris?
He's got to think Adam's like over the moon right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Rock Latex says there's a decent chance that the 52 Tops Mickey Mantle SGC 9.5 that sold a few years ago is a better card than any of the other 3 PSA 10s. Yeah, 100% it could be. No doubt. No doubt. Unbelievable. Mike Petty says, with fake patches and questionable autos, that would grade 5s. Phew. Not really sure what you're getting at there, Mr. Petty. Chris Hay says, all these old bastards with their Mickey mantles hate to see MJ continuing to dominate the actual card market. Chris Hayes has an issue with Chris Hayes. I have to think you were born out of divine intervention. You must not have had a father, mother, or grandparents. You just have it out for older people. But GC wants to know, where's Stiff? Let's see Stiff show his face in the chat. I mean, we've now got, wow, we're breaking record. We're now over 300 people. 306 right now. Wow, that's big. That's big for Sports Cards Live, guys.
Yeah, man, it took 3 years for the Mantle 12.6 million record to fall, and who knows how many years it will take for this one to fall. This is something that doesn't happen very often.
Well, Mickey Mantle should put a card for sale and see what happens now. I mean, there are cards like a PSA 10 Mantle. I think we've heard is a $25 million card. Ken Kendrick's Honus Wagner PSA 8 trimmed. There's been people saying that could be a 9-figure card. Thoughts on that, Brent? Do you have clients willing to spend $100 million on the most important card of all time?
Not that much. No, at least they're not willing to spend that money on a card, but millions potentially. The one thing that this is bringing up for me, someone made a comment about fake patches is, the last few years, that's really driven me to a lot of these 101 Logo Man and Shield autos is you don't have to worry about the patches being fake when it's a Logo Man or a Shield 1-of-1 auto. And so it's like, if you're going to go for an out of 5 or an out of 10 with a 2-color, 3-color, like why not just go all the way to a Shield or a Logo Man? And then that card was designed for that patch. and you don't have to worry so much about fake patches. And so I think that comment just made me, remember one of the things that I think initially started driving the market even more to this, because you know that these are the Logo Man patches for this card.
Yeah, absolutely. Vintage card collector says Marshall Fogel's 1952 Topps PSA 10 mantle is unquestionably the best copy. As long as it's not trimmed or hasn't been shaved a little bit, then unquestionably, but we'll never know. And I think there will be growing skepticism. Simon says, is there a pickup in person for a $13 million card sale? Yeah, I mean, at that point, you're not shipping that card. You are hand delivering it or picking it up for sure. I have to think. Reef the Sea Forever says, hit the like. So thank you, Reef, for asking the chat to hit the like button. Greatly appreciate it. Jahan says, the owners of sports teams, i.e. Ken Kendrick, are not selling cards. There's no point to them. That's a good point itself. I mean, if you're worth a bill and a half, 10 million bucks, 25 million bucks, it's not moving the needle for you. So yeah, I don't see him selling that. We talked about that earlier, and I said, maybe in 50 years. And what I was thinking was Ken Kendrick passes away, maybe his son passes away, and then whatever heir is left decides to sell the card. At that point, you just never know what can happen. Of course, Texas Ranger asks, why is the logo gold? To which, yeah, man, Mo says it's a 50th anniversary patch. Rock Latex thinks that Kobe's premature death added to his legacy. If he's still alive, do we think this card breaks the record? Okay, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I agree. I think his death added to his legacy, but if he's still alive, does this card do the same amount? Because, I mean, he's not signing anymore, as we all know. And is that a part of it? I want to just talk gibberish for a few seconds as Brent and Chris process thoughts on this, because I want to hear from both of them. So we'll go to you guys in just a moment. Yeah, man says Ken only sells cards when he upgrades them. That's true. I've seen him say that as well. Hanif has joined us. What's up, Hanif? Welcome to the show. And the professor is, what becomes the comp for the dual Logo Man, the hammer price or the hammer price plus buy? It's plus buyer's premium. That's just the standard in the hobby, professor. Chris, you're nodding along to that, right? It's what the buyer paid, no?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. That's every sale recorded. When you see like lists on Card Ladder or something like that they all factor in the buyer's premium.
Yeah, you just need to do some additional research as the user of the comps to understand what does that mean to you, because it's what you're gonna have to spend. But it's really comes into negotiation, because when you're negotiating with a seller, you can say to them, well, that comp includes a buyer's premium that went to a third party. Why don't we split the difference, perhaps, or just knock it all off for me? But back to the question about Kobe passing away and whether or not that had an impact tonight on the value of this card. Have either of you formulated a thought?
I absolutely have no doubt in my mind that did not contribute, that his early death absolutely did contribute to the value of this card. Sorry, I want to get that straight. I think that his death catapulted, his collectability and collectors' love for him and made him into this, legendary, man and mythical player that he has become because of his young early death. If he was still alive today, I don't see it being that way. So I know a lot of people don't want to say that collect Kobe and love Kobe, but I just have no doubts that it contributes to it.
You're convincing me. I mean, I went in without a thought, without really knowing one way or thinking one way or the other, but that sort of moves me towards you on that, Brent. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I think he's right. I think there's at least some part of this card that that's the only dual Logo Man autograph of these two players, and it's the only one that ever could exist as a factor. It's also interesting that it was the only one manufactured during that whole exquisite run anyway. I mean, there are various combinations of Jordan, Kobe, and LeBron in different configurations, but there's certainly no doubt that there won't be a chance for there to be another one. And then that's just on top of everything that Brent said. I think, yeah, his tragic passing increased his lore, his mystique, the passion and the sentiment that collectors and the world feel towards him. That I think all those things are huge factors.
Well, we've had a few comments come through that let us know that today, well, not yet where I am, but in 22 and 32 minutes is Kobe Day, August 24th, both of his jersey numbers. So it's kind of poetic that this card is breaking records on Kobe Day. So
that right there is a great example of what I'm referring to. The fact that there's a Kobe Day that's 8/24 is exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, this next comment, Brent, is the one that really puts me over the top for this topic, which is from Zach Pierce, where he says, Kobe died, confirmed this won't be recreated. If he's alive, there could theoretically be another card created. That's what him dying means. It means real organic scarcity because the man is no longer there to sign the card. And that's a huge part of this card is Kobe's autograph. So yeah, that's a big part of it for sure. And then Mookie says, I wonder what Heritage makes on this sale, or did they waive fees to get this listing? I mean, I have no idea, pure speculation. But in cases like this, what I've seen the auction companies do is basically give a portion of that buyer's premium to the seller. So right now, this card's at $12,932,000, but the bid's at $10,600. That's a premium of over $2.3 million. I again have no information on this, no idea, but my guess is that $2.3 million is somehow being split between Heritage and the owner of this card, the current owner, whether it's 50-50 or whether the seller is getting 15 of the 22% buyer's premium or 14 or 6, whatever it is. I think Heritage had to give something to get this card in its auction, and it probably does it that way. That's $2 million to sell a card is egregious. So I think.
Yeah.
All right. Tons of well, just first of all, thanks everybody for being here. Hope this is it's fun for me. It must be fun for you guys if you're hanging out. So happy to see that. There was another comment someone made asking if Dan Brown says, did Jay Lee just not hear Hoj say the exact same thing? That will happen when you're running a live stream. So I probably did. I apologize, but that happens when you're running a live stream with 300 people watching and you're watching comments. As I like to say, I hear about 70% of what these guys say. The rest, I just don't catch on. So yes, I did say that most likely. Mollico got 110 of 115% on a larger card he sold. So that definitely does happen. And YK says usually above $1 million, the seller gets 115%. So there you go. If it's a 22% buyer's premium, maybe Heritage is getting 7 on this one. Dan's Vintage says it has been a great show. Thank you very much, Dan. Appreciate that. Steve Splenda says, is this a good time to bring up that both Brent and Chris follow me, but you don't, yet I continue to bring enthusiastic joy to your... What do you mean I don't follow you? Where? On Instagram? Happy to follow you, Steve Splenda. I'll have to check that out. Mookie says the highest recorded sale of all time is a modern card. So wild, a watershed moment. Oh, that's putting some significance to it right there. A watershed moment. Chris, you follow comps all the time. Do you feel this is, as I go to Instagram to follow Steve Splenda, let me know what you think about the watershed moment.
I think Mookie has been documenting. Mookie Chilson has been documenting some of the different and cool taglines that accompany this particular price realized, and you know we obviously expect that it will be paid, but that's always just a tiny caveat here is let's make sure that does happen. Mike Petty had a fun comment and jest earlier about a particular case of product that didn't get paid not that long ago and resulted in a crazy series of news coverage about it. So you know, but yeah, I think I loved the different angles that he's been providing, and sort of how, you know, it is interesting that this is a card that's not even 20 years old, I guess, and that you know, in the brand he mentioned that it's upper deck and that it features a living athlete or a living person, and you know, it's of a very modest grade and no autograph grade. Just so many interesting factors here. So many things that would probably be confusing to somebody who's brand new, which is one of the things that makes unraveling all the mysteries and the depths of card collecting so exciting, is that there are so many wrinkles to iron out and to figure out as a collector. So I've loved every comment that he's popped in the chat. It's just sheds a different way of looking. It sheds light on a different way of looking at this, what we're watching.
Mm-hmm. I agree on that. I'm constantly talking about how auto quality matters over grade, patch quality matters over grade, game use matters over grade. And so this just, I love when something is going to be so easy to reference like this and say, hey, if you don't have to believe me, look at this. The most expensive card to ever sell is all about the patch quality. The auto quality has nothing to do with the grade.
I love when the hobby moves in that direction. I think that's where the value should be, not in the number on the on the label, on the grade label. Okay, couple more comments here. Zach Pierce says, no, never mind. Chris Hayes says, enjoy your stupid card, rich idiot guy.
See, that's the energy that I like. I like that too. I like to balance things out with a little bit of that energy from time to time.
With you like to balance out with just obscene judgmentalism, jealousy,
just hating, man. He's just hating. He's it's the hater's ball. Let's bring out the hate.
Yeah, let's come to Sports Cards Live and air out your unhappiness, please. YK says, how much do you think all those huge private Kobe Logoman sales recently affected this card, or was it the other way around? So there have been some Kobe Logoman sales. Have they had an impact on this card? And I just feel like Michael Jordan stands alone. So it's a good question. I'm gonna answer this one first and say not that much, but maybe a little bit, but not that much. But I'm happy to be, to change my mind on that. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, real quick. I mean, the two sales that were recently disclosed were for $2.3 million for Kobe's final flawless Logoman autograph, or maybe his first. Sorry if I messed that up, but his 2015 flawless Logoman autograph 1 of 1 for Kobe. I think it's his first. That sold for 2.3, and then his 2017-18 flawless Logoman autograph that sold for 1.7. We're talking about a sale tonight that's 6 times those sales. I think we're in a different stratosphere here.
Yeah. Texas Rangers says, chances we find out who bought it. So it'd be fun to lay odds on that. I mean, I'm going to I think we're going to, like 80% certain we're going to find out who bought it. My guess. Just a guess, of course. Brent, what do you think?
I think a card like this is more likely we will find out who bought it versus, a PSA 10 mantle. I think the type of, collector coming in and buying a card like this is more than likely wanting to be known.
Now, TCG points out money laundering 101. I mean, if this is some sort of money laundering transaction, or it is Saudi money, as has been put forth earlier, and it could very well be, we may not find out if it, unless it's by a prolific cover or representative of the money launderers. I suppose that could possibly be, but I don't know. Interesting. Chris, thoughts?
I don't know, man. I don't. Yeah, I do know that there are various agencies of law enforcement that look at this space, that have dedicated people who continuously look into this space. And if something nefarious were going on at the highest level of newsworthiness in the sports card industry, which is this particular sale, like if there were illicit money laundering going on, I think it might be difficult to keep that covered up. But maybe I'm just naive. I don't know.
So Thorson had a question. What would the price be if these both had a hologram on them indicating the game it was used in, like Topps has done? Imagine if they were both finals game Logoman patches. How does that change things?
I've got a zag on this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think unless those Logomen came from totally iconic games, like Kobe's first 50-point game, or even, if it was a finals game or something like that, or same thing for Jordan. Like if this was from game 6 of the 1998 finals, which it's not, but if it were, then yeah, that enhances the appeal of the card further. But if Kobe's patch came from a game where he scored like 7 points in his rookie season and the Lakers lost by 30, or if Jordan's patch came from a game where, he tweaked an ankle and only played, 2 quarters and, got 20 points. I mean, there's a real likelihood that these patches also could come from very unremarkable cards, and that would put a big damper on it. I think the fact that we don't know quite what game it comes from, we just know that the player that it's associated with, that lets our imaginations run wild and imagine that it comes from an important, significant game, or that the significance of the patch isn't tied to any one particular game, but it's tied to the player as a whole. So I think there's a real risk that if we find out these came from a modest game or just an average game for these players, that it wouldn't feel as special.
Kind of not knowing adds a bit of the mystery kind of to what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I also think it only matters if there's a hierarchy of other patches that weren't from finals, and then there was one identified as a finals. So I think unless there's without a hierarchy of there being different levels of patches, say if there's a 1 of 1 from game 42 of the regular season, then there's one from the playoffs, and then there's one from the finals, then it would matter. But I think without there being a hierarchy, I don't think it'd make any impact.
Well, we're down to 5 minutes on the auction, guys. Unless a bid comes through, we will be done in 5 minutes. So we will see what happens.
Do you think we'll get a bid? Will we get a last second bid here to keep this thing going?
I mean, I didn't think we were cracking 7.1 million. Now we're at almost at 13. So don't ask me, but I'm going to guess no more bids. I hope I'm wrong. I want to see this thing come up to 15 million by the time I wake up in the morning, but we will see. Okay, situational adventures. Does PSA reach back for more of an upgrade fee? Dan's Vintage said PSA just sent an upcharge fee to the original creator of this card. He doesn't even own it anymore. Brief to see. Question: are they going to put this on a gold chain and wear it with red lights? I think that's highly possible. Lantern says, do you think it's a person or a company like Dick's Sporting Goods who bought the Paul Skeens debut patch? I don't think. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no because these guys aren't playing anymore. I think Dick's wants cards of players that are playing. I'm going to guess no. I think this is a different situation. But
yeah, I think you can get the accounting department or the CEO to approve $1 million marketing spend for a sports card. Going back to them and saying, yeah, actually we got into an extended bidding war and we spent 13 million is going to be a lot harder to justify on Monday morning.
Exactly. Those back page, it says PSA 6 for the win. Seth Kaywood says huge day for PSA.
I love that one.
Guys,
PSA 6 cards. They're all up now. They're all up.
All your PSA 6 cards have gone up in value, guys. Take them out. The PSA 6. PSA 6 greater than PSA 10. You know?
Buying PSA 6s.
It says, show the back of the card. I can do that for you. There is the back of the card. We'll let you guys take a look at that for a few minutes. What else we got here? Skeens is Mickey Mouse now. Turpin Force says, Jeremy, I believe it's Shine. He believes Shine 450 is the buyer. I who knows? But if it's Shine, he usually shows them. I mean, I do follow him on Instagram. I do see he shows cards after he buys them. So I guess we will see if it happens for sure. We will see if it happens. All right. Well, guys, just under 3 minutes now on the card. Hey, Chris, did you come with anything to talk about tonight?
Yeah, I have 6 different topics, actually. Do you want to start on those?
No, we see Steve Splendo's last comment right there real quick. Whoever bought this is cracking it and sending it to BGS first. That is so good. Sorry, that's so good.
But you know what's interesting about that? The interesting thing about that is that if anybody were to, crack and resubmit this to PSA or to Beckett or anybody, SGC, CGC, the fact is that it's always going to live, at least on Card Ladder and other data sharing websites, that it was a PSA 6 at the time. So,
yep.
it comes back to that whole thing about drinking that grading Kool-Aid. And let's say this was this was regraded as say a BGS 8.5 or something like that, or even a BGS 9. Does that help the card? It's also a PSA 6, but it's a whole other discussion for sure. Whole other discussion. Where are we at here? Minute and a half. We've had no bids in the last almost half hour. We were just shy of $13 million. And if this thing ends in a minute and a half, we will wind up this show with still just under 300 people. I'm showing 299. So thank you very much for that. Especially the one guy on Instagram. Thank you for your time tonight. Really appreciate it.
Shout out that guy.
Shout out that guy for sure.
Just one.
Tastes great. Eric's going strong here tonight. Malco says, is Jeff going to interview the card tomorrow? Is Jeff going to interview the card tomorrow?
As we get later, they're getting better.
50 seconds. Texas says, back of the card says patches are used in the game, but does not say Jordan or Kobe used them. Yeah, that's the leap of faith thing that I as a patch collector have to take, is the leap of faith. But trust me when I tell you there, Molico, that goes through my mind all the time. Chris says, whole other discussion. Hoj and Jer brought some fun convo. Oh, Brett, good job with the hair and commentary. Brent does have good hair. 15 seconds left.
He's the follicled among the three of us.
He's follically blessed. Okay, this might be it, guys. 6 seconds. I don't think we're going to see it, but
yeah, this has got to be
things
it.
have happened. 1 second. Let's refresh. There we have it. Our new record is just shy of $13 million, $12,932,000 on the dual logo man. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, 2007 exquisite collection, 1 of 1 in the PSA 6 holder. And there we have it, guys. That card has ended. Congratulations, everybody. Congrats to the hobby. Ton of fun. All right, guys, listen, we're coming up on 4 hours here, so we are going to end this. But first of all, Brent, thanks for joining, man. You stayed on a lot longer than scheduled, so thanks for that. Always good to have you. Always fun chatting hobby with you and hearing your thoughts. And I must say, I'm glad to see just how you've come along since you first came on the show. So congrats on what you're up to. Chris, always fun to have you on. Any final parting thoughts from let's start with you. We'll end with you, Brent. Chris, final parting thoughts.
Great show, guys. I was thoroughly entertained before I came on, and then I had even more fun once I joined. Sometimes less is more. And it was pretty cool to actually be live with you guys. I literally thought there was almost no chance that this card would become the highest selling sports card of all time. And then we just watched it happen and kind of talked it out as it happened. That was pretty cool.
Appreciate that, Chris, as always. Brent, any final comments from you? Then I'm going to read the final comments coming from you guys in the chat, and then we're going to wrap up.
Again, just great show. Pleasure being on here. Consider it an honor to be on with you, Jeremy, the Jay Leno of sports cards. And just so much fun talking about this card too, and everything it means to the hobby, and everything from the grade to the patch to the auto, and what makes it different and special and unique, and how it's so different from the big sales we've had in the past of just grading being the only thing that creates the rarity and scarcity and value. And man, just hours can fly by on here with you guys. So this has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining. Bob Boozle says, can Jeremy Lee say I won the auction for my grandchildren? I cannot, Mr. Boozle, but I'm glad you've been here tonight. Texas Rangers, thank you for joining us. Mike Petty says, fun night. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Mr. Petty. Mookie Chilson says, it was an honor to be in here with you all. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Mookie Chilson. Situational, West Coast Card Show tomorrow. Good night. Have fun at the show tomorrow. Situational. Definitely enjoy that. Thank you, Rage. Appreciate that. Bob Boozle says, hope they display the card at the Detroit National. That'd be fun. Robert Scott, great show. Thank you, Rob. Good to see you in here as always. Yankees fan, thank you very much. Laura is still here. Thank you, Laura, for joining us tonight. Skeppy, thanks for being here as well. He says, what if they send a message and say their 5-year-old has their phone? No doubt. No doubt at all. Hey, Texas Rangers just downloaded the PSA scans. He now owns it digitally. Congratulations on your new card, Texas Rangers. Good stuff. Thank you, Reef the Sea. Appreciate that very much. Chris Hayes, thank you for that. Steve Splenda, appreciate the shout out very much. What an awesome historical night. Everything was awesome, minus my jealousy for Brent's card. Thank you, Splenda, for joining us. Thank you, TCG Sports Cards. Weapons, appreciate you being here as well. Molico, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for tuning into episode 280 of Sports Cards Live. I will be back tomorrow with a Fanatics Collect weekly auction-ending watch party. It will be a lot of fun. Tuesday is going to be the 90s auctions showcase for 90sauctions.com. Lots of Gretzky's going off on there. They got a nice auction, their biggest one ever, I think. So join me here on Tuesday. Josh Adams of 90s Auctions will be joining. And Thursday is the Fanatics Collect premier auction here on the channel. I think the 52nd month in a row, myself and Adam Gray have done that. So that'll be a fun show. As always, there's another Caitlin Clark logo woman up for auction. Last time did about 660. So that'll be fun to watch as well. And a reminder, you can listen to these shows wherever you get your podcasts, all for free. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Appreciate that. Bob Boozle, thank you for being here as well. Foul Ball, thank you as always. Have fun at the show tomorrow, Foul Ball. And with that, you guys both hang tight. But with that, I don't know if you know what we're about to do, Brent, but jump in if you can. We'll start with you. This episode of Sports Cards Live is now over.
Oh, over. Got it.
And it is over. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining. Have a great Sunday.
Thanks for tuning in and being a part of the Sports Cards Live community. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and most of all, keep collecting. More great content to come. Sports Cards is a lifestyle.